yellow jersey of Patrick Gretsch faces up to his first big day in the saddle in the USA Pro Cycling Challenge with Stage 1. At the outset of an American Cycling Challenge, a young German, Patrick Gretsch, shocked the favourites to take hold of the first ever Quiznos yellow jersey. Now, an elite field prepares to respond. But the obstacle they face is a staggering trek uphill. Their first ascent has the intimidating air of royalty. A vertical haul to Monarch Pass, 11,000 feet into the sky. But the far side of the mountain offers little opportunity for relief. Their conclusive climb points to Mount Crested Butte, a summit reaching upwards of 9,000 feet at the finish. Big-name cyclists face the Rockies' daunting peaks. Stage 1 of the US Pro Cycling Challenge is next. It is day 2 of the USA Pro Cycling Challenge. We go into the heart of Colorado today. We climb the Monarch Pass on this opening stage. Presented by United Healthcare, we go from Salida to Crested Butte. And it's a tough finish, and we cross the mountain of Monarch Pass on the way. Salida have already seen the departure of the 130 riders. They wave them off beneath blue skies, and this is where they are bound to Great Crested Butte. And that's where we are standing talking to you right now, just above the finishing line. Hi everybody, I'm Phil Liggett, alongside me Paul Sherwin. It is a beautiful day here in Colorado, and behind us is the finishing line at 9,000 plus feet. Paul, that's the problem. The riders are so worried about the altitude.
Yeah, yesterday the individual time trial over 5 miles actually went downhill 300 feet, but today it's a question. All of the Europeans are trying to ask themselves, how will they handle this altitude? At 11,500 feet, it's going to be very difficult. They'll get the first indications of which of the European riders will be able to challenge the Americans, and of course the ones that everybody are very, very scared of, the 2 teams from Colombia.
Well, yesterday it all began in Colorado Springs, and the riders there in front of a huge crowd really did perform exceptionally well. But one man who started early showed them all up. He's a great time trialist, young Patrick Gretsch of Germany, rides for an American team, HTC High Road. He was on form.
He certainly was. He started number 41 out of the gate, but very early on we saw that he was riding extremely fast. He took advantage of the very technical first part of the course, and when he came to the line, Phil, he stopped the bar at 8 minutes and 27 seconds.
So he leads the race by 2 seconds. Here's a look at him now in our Cannondale athlete profile. He's only 24. That was only his second win this year as a professional. He's a light boy. He likes time trialing. He doesn't think he can win the race, but he's going to make a good shot at it. Now, yesterday in our roadid.com ride of the day, we gave that to Patrick Gretsch, of course, because he won it. We asked you to vote. You gave it to Levi Leipheimer, and I think that was a good call.
It certainly was. He finished the day off in 7th place. He lost himself 8 seconds, but it's an indication that Levi Leipheimer, after his recent win in the Tour of Utah, is on form to try and win this USA Pro Cycling Challenge, and that's why I think the fans offered him the Road ID.
Well, for your chance to win a shopping spree, head on over to roadid.com/ride and join in this competition. We'll be asking again for your roadid.com selection later on in the show. All right, well, this was the scene yesterday in Colorado Springs. A yellow jersey by Patrick Gretsch pulled on, having been presented to him by the state governor of Colorado. And he will take the lead now. Now, this is the United Healthcare overall standings right now. 2 seconds advantage for Gretsch over Van der Velde, 4 over Buckwalter, 5 over Robert Foster, and 7 over Voigt.
Yeah, well, the gaps are really not very big at all. Big old George Hincapie in 6th place, 7 seconds in arrears. Levi Leipheimer in 7th. And, of course, Cadel Evans, the champion of the Tour de France from this year, he finished the clock in 9th place.
Well, you know, even though we are standing at just under 9,500 feet, it is very hot here at Great Crested Butte, and the riders are going to battle it out over the 11,000-foot climb as well of Monarch Pass. Let's now check all of that out with our Radio Shack route.
Yeah, very interesting route, Phil. I think I'd rather be out in a car with a camera to take some pictures of the magnificent views that we're going to experience. Yes, the riders moving out of Salida this morning for a 160-kilometer ride. That's around about 99 miles of racing, and the climbing starting right out of the gun. By the way, Salida, as they said in Spanish, actually means exit or start, so I suppose that's a very fitting name for the start town on today's stage, as they go over 11,500 feet, then down a very fast and precarious descent, flat roads down through the middle. But this race today is all about the sting in the tail, because once they start to get into Crested Butte, all of a sudden the road starts to tilt up to the skies to finish at Mount Crested Butte.
It's going to be a tough end to the day, believe me. Now let's have a little bit more information here as we look at the Colorado.com stage facts. The 130 riders, all of course still in the race as we start day 2. The big King of the Mountains challenge is the top of the Monarch Pass. We have 2 sprints coming near the end, one at Gunnison just down the road with 31 miles to go, and then 3 miles before the finishing line where we're standing we have go through the town of Crested Butte, and believe me, they are ready. And then we finish at 9,409 feet. And the sun, it seems, always shines in the state of Colorado, as it does today. This is the Honey Milk sign in here as we're watching the new man in yellow, the first man in yellow in the Quiznos yellow jersey, Patrick Gretsch, signing in. This is Christian van der Velde, who finished second yesterday. He had to be called off the massage table to come and get his award yesterday because he didn't realize he would survive such a long day. They're the 2 big boys signing in, first and second. Now we go down to the start line. 130 riders, looking a little bit pensive. A couple of riders having a chat there. One is Frank Schleck as we start the rollout. This is now the Nissan Leaf electric start as all 130 riders start to roll out from Salida. And that is the way to pronounce it for our viewers around the world, even though it's we would more logically call it Salida. But the crowd here enjoying one lap of their town before the riders head out onto the highway and then start to climb Monarch Pass pretty soon after they left town. They left town just after midday today. The yellow jersey of HCC High Roads, Gretsch, who said he's not going to defend the championship. He's looking to try and help TJ Van Garderen later. Well, straight away from the gun, there are the 4 riders getting clear. And the riders, Brad White, Jay Thompson, Will Dixon, and Edward Beltran, a Colombian rider there. Number 87 is Brad White. They quickly were allowed to race away here, and maybe it was because riders were being delayed at the back of the race. 1 or 2 mechanical problems. This wasn't exactly a mechanical problem with the 2-time winner of the Giro d'Italia, Ivan Basso. It was a shoe problem. Now, how many times this year have we seen riders changing their shoes on the move? Remember, we saw Tulhashov doing that in the Tour de France. The climb itself was taken out by the EPM Colombian rider at the top of the summit, where they held just on 5-minute advantage. Edouard Beltran getting the 10 points there in the Nissan Monarch Pass King of the Mountains competition. It was a long climb, but it was very early on, and that's why we weren't able to show you the climb itself. But apart from the 4 breakaway, which split 2 by 2, it was not a difficult climb for them. Now, these are the 2 leads who've gone clear. Jay Thompson, the South African rider, and Brad White are the 2 riders now ahead. They split up just over the top of the climb. And the weather here at the finishing line is absolutely beautiful. 75 degrees Fahrenheit, very, very light winds. There's no humidity at all. It is idyllic days in the mountains, believe me. And all of these beautiful pictures, high definition. And there's no finer way to see the beauty of Colorado, I can tell you that. Right, these are the 2 leaders now. They are still clear, Jay Thompson and Brad White. So these 2 boys, the sun on the left shoulder now, Paul, this is the sort of transition now, isn't it? Because we've gone over the Monarch Pass. Jay Thompson, Brad White. For some reason, they've got rid of Will Dixon, Edouard Beltran, they're distanced. We're going to experience, by the way, a little bit of breakup here with high definition. It's because of all of the mountains, and the pictures are being bounced off a helicopter, which is about 2,500 feet above the riders. But we'll stay with them, and we'll keep going as they get closer to us. We will get perfect results, of course.
Well, I think we expected that breakaway to go, Phil, on the first climb of the day because it started climbing immediately. The neutralized flag was brought in, and that's when that 4-man breakaway got clear. having gone over the climb, which was very much in the early part of the race, I would see all the big powerful teams, the big European teams, starting to get themselves organised, and slowly but surely they'll try and pull back this these 4 men, because there are actually still 4 men ahead of the main peloton. It's 2 riders followed by one, and we'll see I think a devastating chase done by the main peloton.
Yeah, because once they do get along this long undulation, the Valley Road, the Arkansas River will be on the right shoulder for much of the route today, where no doubt we'll see plenty of people enjoying the trout fishing there. But as they make their progress now towards Crested Butte itself, they come into the town of Gunnison, where we will have a sprint, and then they will head up to Crested Butte and then on to the mountain of Great Crested Butte. It is a beautiful day for a great bike race. They've split up, by the way. Jay Thompson, Brad White are now clearly ahead. Edouard Beltran is riding alone in 3rd place, and Will Dixon is not too far ahead of the peloton now. This is the finishing line here, and as the local said to me, you only come to Crested Butte when you want to go to Crested Butte, because there ain't nowhere else after that. You are right at the top of the Rockies here, and the only way out is back downtown. In the summer months, there are roads that crisscross over to Aspen. The hazardous road, but you know, Paul, on mountain bikes, these guys actually ride across the mountain to Aspen for lunch and then ride back, and they've got in something like 125 kilometers.
Yep, it's a very long ride over the top.
So as we're watching the leaders go clear here, as 28 and 6 miles an hour, that's the average speed done so far today. These are the 2 boys that applied the pressure up the hill just after the climb itself, which was a little bit of a surprise there. It may be that Beltran, the Colombian, knowing that the climbing was over for quite a while in the valley, that there was no big future to stay away from the peloton. That is a logical thought, I think. Garmin Cervelo also contributing to the pace setting here, along with the yellow jersey team of HTC High Road. And these are the riders out up front. All right, well, as they get tended to by the race referees, we'll take our first break of the long, hot day in the saddle. Well, these are the United Healthcare leaders' jerseys. This is where they all went yesterday. They all went nearly to the same man, of course. The Quiznos yellow jersey going to Patrick Gressier, and the King of the Mountains in Nissan jersey as well. We've also got the Smashburger sprint jersey and the best young rider also going there. But the most aggressive rider was given to, the XG jersey was given to Danny Pate from Colorado Springs. These are the 2 leaders who got clear with 2 other riders on the climb of Monarch Pass today, but they split up just over the top of the climb. And the winner of the climb, Edouard Beltran, has fallen back. And I think probably because it is quite a long gap now before we hit the final climb of the day. And they're not great conducive roads to hold a big advantage. Just now the peloton is sitting at just under 4 minutes. But they'll feel as though they've got these 2 riders, Jay Thompson, under control. And also with him is Brad White. He's from Holland in Michigan and rides for United Healthcare. He's the rider on the front just now. This is TJ Van Garderen, who was the best young rider yesterday, sitting nearest camera in that light blue jersey. And he's also 8th overall. TJ, well, he's thinking long term. By Sunday in Denver, he could well be the winner if things go according to plan. He's always got his hands on the young rider's jersey. Well, looking at these pictures here, you can see TJ Van Garderen there, just rubbing on his face there. But don't forget, when he went to the Tour de France this year, TJ Van Garderen had the most idyllic day, didn't he, in the Tour?
No, he certainly did, Phil. He went out on the attack. He waited to get the first couple of stages under his belt, but then as far as he was concerned, what he wanted to do was try and make a name for himself in the Tour de France this year. And of course, he managed to get himself a lead, a very early lead in the King of the Mountains classification.
So the peloton, still a freeze coming on our screens, which we apologize for. It is because of the mountain scenery around here, and the weather is also a problem because the localized weather around Colorado can change literally by the minute. It can be thunder and lightning in one quarter and be brilliantly sunny in the other. This is mountain scenery and mountain weather for you. The riders are just hoping that these storms that pass through don't arrive right on top of them. Second category climb of the Monarch Pass is now behind the riders. The profile shows gently undulations, but the road itself predominantly feels a lot as though it's going downhill. Now, we had a phenomenon yesterday driving to the finishing line at Crested Butte. We were looking at the river on our right shoulder, and it appeared to be running uphill. We are assured by the local people it is an optical illusion, and we weren't going downhill. It was us that was going uphill.
It really was a very strange situation, but apparently that kind of optical illusion exists in a number of places around Colorado, and I for one found it very, very strange, because even the railway line on the far side of the valley floor seemed to be going downhill.
TJ Van Garderen happy with the way the race is going today just now. Let's have a little chat as TJ here, looking very relaxed in the Sheets Young Riders jersey. And before the start, Bob Rowe was talking to TJ, so let's find out what he had to say.
Still got a long way to go. Were you satisfied with your opening time trial prologue performance yesterday?
Wasn't bad, but I don't know. I don't think it was the best one I've ever had, but yeah, I'm satisfied.
It was a little bit of a different course with a pretty steep downhill, pretty fast, exciting downhill.
Yeah, I think I would have preferred it to be run the opposite way, going up the hill, but no, it was fun. Like it was technical, and it went through some pretty parts, and it finished downtown, so it was cool.
Do you expect today's stage to shake up the overall standings?
I think it'll be a difficult one to control. I mean, you could see something like Tour of Georgia a few years back when a huge break went away and all teams are represented, no one chases. So with the hard start like that, it's going to be hard to control.
A little bit of an uphill to the finish at Mount Crested Butte. How do you fancy your chances for today?
I'll go for it in the sprint.
Alrighty, best of luck.
All right, thank you.
He's all smiles and looking very relaxed there as we go back to the main field here. This is the yellow jersey of Patrick Gretsch. He said after the finish he wasn't surprised he won the time trial. He made it a target of the whole week, but he would be surprised if he were to win at the actual challenge itself, because he's thinking more of TJ Van Garderen, his team leader, as a man because of his ability to climb, which Patrick may be a great time trialist, but he's not a great climber. Peloton riding pretty quickly over what are tremendous road surfaces here. The odd town passing by. There aren't too many roads in this part of the state of Colorado. That's why this is the main approach to Gunnison after they've left Salida. And then when we make a right turn in Gunnison, we will then start the road which takes us directly into Crested Butte and then onwards up the hill into Great Crested Butte. Team BMC nursing here, Cadell Evans, who carries #1, the champion of the Tour de France. We don't yet know how he's coping with altitude, but he was a wise man. He arrived here early to get training, and he is well aware the Colombians are good. We might find out as we get towards the end of the day. Welcome back. The yellow jersey, after his great win in Colorado Springs yesterday, now out on the public highway here as we head towards the finish today in Great Crested Butte. That's Patrick Gretsch. It's only a narrow advantage, and it could all change immediately today. We have time bonus sprints along the way to come in Gunnison and in Crested Butte rather. Then we race on to the finish in Great Crested Butte, which also carries small time bonuses. All those times come off the rider's time for the day. And let's just have a little look at the profile. We've done the big climb today, which is Monarch Pass. It was 4 riders contesting it. 2 have gone back towards the peloton. 2 are still clear. The first green sprint point, that will come at Gunnison. That, by the way, is largely the big town where all the people go shopping here, even though they might be living some 40, 50 miles away, because that's the big place. Now, the new governor of Colorado is John Hickenlooper, and he is in fact a bike rider as well. So here he is now talking with Bob Rowe.
I don't think I could be any more excited to have the Pro Cycling Challenge, to have the world's greatest cyclists going through some of the most beautiful countryside in Colorado. You just can't help but get revved up. This is as good as it gets. It's like one of your children, that if you live in Colorado, you're very proud of how beautiful the state is and all these beautiful mountain towns and the ski resorts and all that stuff. And then to be able to show it off to the rest of the world and have, you know, something that you know intimately and are so proud of, and then have the world share in that, I mean, just, it creates excitement. There are a couple places where the cyclists are going to be going over 12,000-foot pass. Well, their physical ability is challenged at the highest level there. this kind of extreme challenge is going to be something new for these riders. It's going to allow us to see different facets of the racers. This race to start off with having the top 3 finishers from the Tour de France, to be able to have, Tom Danielson, our real hometown hero from Colorado, having them all in this race. I tell you, this is going to be a race to remember.
State Governor there, John Hickenlooper, but Bob was asking the questions actually, but we didn't hear from him. But even so, isn't it great to have a State Governor that's so interested in bringing the sport to his state and making sure his state is seen around the world? It is an incredibly photogenic state, Colorado. And by the way, the pictures on these images are being beamed to 161 nations all over the week. And a lot of those challenges which John spoke about still lie ahead of these riders. There's TJ Van Garderen in the Sheets jersey as best young rider, got his hands on that straight away, and I suspect might try to keep it all the way to Denver too. Routine at the moment for these boys. They've got the breakaway under control. The 4 riders have split. We've got 2 riders up front, Jay Thompson and Brad White, and they're around about 51 miles into the day, so they're over half distance now. Well, we passed through the halfway mark, Paul. We did feel at this transition bit in wide open, almost desert-like conditions here. I'm not too sure about those clouds rolling around. The riders heading really towards all of the action, which probably won't really get underway till we head up towards Gunnison, will it?
No, it just depends on what the weather direction, the wind direction is like, Phil, because we drove down yesterday, it was a tailwind, and today it appears that the riders have got a full-on headwind. But if they do start to turn around a little bit and pick up the crosswinds, that could split this race to pieces.
Yeah, actually, that's a very good point. It has turned completely 380 degrees. It's gone right onto the head, and it rather spoilt the moves, I think, on the climb of the Monarch Pass. The riders unwilling to waste too much energy. These are the 2 leaders here. Jay Thompson is the United Healthcare rider, and Bristol rider rather, on the front at the moment. Brad White is the healthcare rider. He's the American flying the flag, as they will try daily to do here in this event. He comes from Holland in Michigan. He wasn't born there, but that's where he resides at the moment. And willing to work what we call one-on-one here, where you help each other to hold off the common enemy. But they're still holding it just on 3:55. That gap can be shut down pretty quickly once the big slopes start again. And there are plenty of big slopes still lying ahead on today's stage to Crested Butte. USA Pro Cycling Challenge heading towards Crested Butte today. We've just picked up the man who is literally in no man's land here, the long empty road, Edward Beltran, up at the front at the top of Monarch Pass. He dropped off. We thought it was voluntary because he thought the long flat road now wasn't conducive to his style. He's still plugging away though out there, and he's still ahead of the peloton. Will Dixon, who also dropped with him, has indeed gone right back into the peloton, the Australian. So we have just this man in 3rd place on the road. They're way behind the race now as the 2nd category climb of the Monarch Pass. Team car coming up here to have a chat, and heading now to the first sprint of the day, which comes in Gunnison. That's the biggest town around here just at the moment, and it's all set up for the arrival of the USA Pro Cycling Challenge before they make a right turn. That will in fact be the first time they've made any sort of turn for about 50 miles or 80 kilometers today, and they will turn right in Gunnison as they set fur for the climb of Crested Butte. There's the peloton. Not surprisingly, the yellow jersey of HTC High Road is not too far off the front. But as the riders continue on the way here, and
the 2 leaders there,
peloton doing just pretty well. Bob Roll is here, I think, to show us all about the Garmin GPS of Nissan. So let's have a look. That's the Nissan innovative feature today. Bob Roll to show us about the Garmin GPS.
If you're like me, when you're riding your bike, you're frequently lost. I'm here with Justin McCarthy from Garmin to explain a new unit just like your car, GPS for your bicycle.
Yeah, here we've got the Edge 800. It's one of our newer GPS models. So it's a GPS cycling device, and it comes preloaded with maps for North America. And you can also purchase a small little micro SD card for European mapping or for anywhere else in the world for that matter. If you get lost, it's as easy as just pushing a couple buttons, and you can actually find restaurants, you can find hotels. You know, if you need to find your way back to your house, there's a back to start button as well. So, you know, it's a perfect device for someone who wants to just go out and ride and just kind of lose their mind and not think about the track on the way home. You know, we've also got two other smaller devices here. We've got the Edge 500, which a lot of the riders on our team use, and then we've got the newest Edge 200 here in the black.
Another innovation of cycling and another march forward. Thanks, Justin.
Thank you.
Boys, that's your Nissan Innovation, and we're all using those tonight to find our way through the mountains to save a long drive around to Aspenac, and I'm looking forward to seeing the scenery, I must say. These are still the two leaders, just plugging away at their job here. They're still nibbling it up a little bit. They've gone up to 4 minutes and 25 seconds now. I'm not sure whether that will be enough to stay away for the day, but it will be interesting. This man is behind, and this is Edouard Beltran. I'm not quite too sure whether he's coming or going. Well, he's doing the wise thing, Paul. He's taking on plenty of food and drink here, and because the heat is very intense on these roads. And I think what has spoiled the race to a large degree is that headwind today. The riders are using far too much energy here.
You know, they are, and it's a tough one, especially when it's a small breakaway. Four-man breakaway might have had a chance of surviving just a little bit longer, but I think what the main peloton are doing now, Phil, yes, they're setting a tempo on the front end of that front end of the pack, but they're not using all of their firepower. They're waiting for a little bit later on. You get a chance to see, look at BMC here all lined up. But I think Cadel Evans would certainly like to rise to the occasion here at the USA Pro Cycling Challenge, because he is, of course, the winner of the recent Tour de France, and he's been a completely different rider, I feel, this year. He rides with so much more confidence and self-ability.
Yeah, and I think that's why this year he has become the all-round top cyclist at the height of his career, and he really wants to prove. He keeps reminding himself he's won the Tour de France, first Australian ever, and quite clearly now he's whipped his team up to play a prominent role. And this team next year, Team BMC, is going to walk into the top slot because they've signed Thor Hushoff, they've signed Philippe Gilbert. There he is, #1. Cadel Evans got his team all around him. You're right, he is in a different world just now, Cadel.
I think he was extremely happy. A couple of years ago when George Hincapie moved across to BMC and then Cadel Evans did, everyone said, well, why are you guys going to this small team? Well, I think the man behind the team, Jim Okovitz, he had an idea, he had a plan of just how exactly he wanted to build his team up over the last couple of seasons, and I think that was something that came to fruition this year at the Tour de France, because they were extremely dominant and they looked after Cadel perfectly.
Yeah, absolutely right. Well, sorry about the picture fees again. That's out of our control as we go back to the finishing line for you. Well, here he is, Edouard Beltran, the Colombian. He's only 21 years of age. He only turned professional last year, but he's letting us all know now that he's very much a part of the USA Pro Cycling Challenge. We'll be back. Welcome back as you rejoin us here on the USA Pro Cycling Challenge, day 2, but stage 1. Jay Thompson of South Africa is on the front, and we've got here Brad White of the United Healthcare team just sharing the pace, though. This is where we are. We're over the halfway mark now. We're heading for the first green S, which is a special sprint, the Smashburger sprint, which comes in Gunnison, carries a small time bonus, which could make the differences today. Now let's go back down the road about 3.5 minutes. This is Eduardo Beltran. He was with those two up front. He fell back. We didn't feel he was exhausted. He just chose to fall back, but he hasn't allowed the field to catch him up yet. The gap is still around 4:20 across the board. Beltran here, well, he's only 21 years of age, but he did have a fine 3rd place in the Tour de Rio, which is in Brazil, earlier this year, and he made his name last year when he was 2nd in the under-23 Giro d'Italia. Tommy Danielson wants to win this race. He's made no secret of that fact. He comes from Boulder, Colorado, and as we look at him, let's hear what he had to say at the start this morning when he was speaking with Bob Roll.
Tommy, were you satisfied with your prologue opening stage effort yesterday?
Yeah, it went all right. You know, I'll be honest with you, it was a hard prologue for me, being downhill and so short. I suffered a lot. I didn't really feel great. I don't think anybody felt great, but I pushed as hard as I could and did the best ride I could. I mean, can't say I'm really happy with it. Can't say I'm disappointed. I'm just kind of mediocre. You know, I'm 9 seconds behind Levi, which was hoping to be closer than that, but it didn't work out. So just take it day by day and see how it goes out. Christian Vandevelde did a really good ride yesterday, so puts us in a good position for today to maybe take the jersey. So we'll see what happens.
Do you expect today to be a little bit of a GC battle with two tough climbs out on the race course?
I think so, and perhaps if the Colombian teams weren't here, I think maybe less of a GC battle there on the first climb. But those guys really race aggressively, and I expect them to be aggressive on the first climb. So we'll see. And then in the end, I don't really know the climb that well. I've done it mountain biking, but never road biking. So we'll see if there'll be probably a small group in the finish, but I don't know how big.
All right, Tommy D, best of luck.
Thanks a lot, Bob. Appreciate it.
Well, then, of course, Tommy D hadn't realised it was going to be a blockhead wind on the climb of the Monarch Pass, so the Colombians weren't quite as troublesome as he seemed to expect. The leaders now continuing alone up front, while the peloton that linger at just over 4 minutes and 20 seconds. The gap at the moment, as we'll continue to pass through villages. I think we're going to see Beltran rejoin at the main field pretty soon, as he can. In fact, I think we can see him just ahead of the pack there. Looks like him coming back now. I nearly called you Bob then. Sorry, Paul.
Not a problem, not a problem. No, I think he realised the most sensible thing to do, Phil, was actually to sit up and wait for the main field, because you don't want to waste a lot of energy on a day like this when you're caught in no man's land. And he realises that there are more days for him to go out and climb, and probably the goal for his EPM team from Colombia is to try and win themselves the King of the Mountains classification, which is regarded extremely highly in Colombia, because these guys regard themselves as some of the highest climbers and some of the best climbers in the world.
So the 21-year-old, I think very sensibly then waiting for the peloton. I'm not sure he was going to until his team car came up and said, look, you're just doing nothing stuck out here. Get back in that field and rest a little bit. Which now leaves us with just the two riders up front. Jay Thompson, who's very well known in South Africa, but he's also pretty well known here in the United States because he races on the American Bissell team. And Brad White, the American who comes from Holland, Michigan, also flying the flag. Those two riders, I think they will feel back here, are quite manageable now. But they're going to have to close the gap, I think, before Gunnison.
No, I think they will, but it's not a real chase in the main field currently, Phil. They're setting what I call a false tempo. It's just to make sure that that breakaway of the two riders doesn't get up to proportions which make it much more difficult to pull down towards the end. But when this main field does start to turn up the screws, you'll see how quickly that gap tumbles.
Well, Gunnison comes at around about 68 miles into the stage today. It's about 109 kilometers. Currently we've done 57 miles covered, so a little way out, but not that far. I think I'd feel a bit more happy if we saw the sign now of the gap starting to come down a little bit, and I think that's what HTC High Road will do now, as they've got to control the peloton with Gretsch on the leaderboard.
Yeah, so just a brief reminder.
So we've just got so we've just got two riders out front. The other man's just gone back into the field now, as we just have a little look here at the finishing line. It is a most idyllic and beautiful part of Colorado. 2 3/4 hours in the saddle. A good hour and a quarter, I would think, still to race to this finishing line today. See you in a minute. We're back on the first road racing stage of the USA Pro Cycling Challenge, presented by United Healthcare. No change while you've been away. The two riders are still out in front. Jay Thompson doing the majority of the pacemaking here, with Brad White of United Healthcare there. His team car's just come up alongside him. Beltran has gone back into the field, so the spread now is peloton to these two riders. There's where we are. Still predominantly going downhill till we get to Gunnison. That's the first sprint of the day. Steady climb up to the finishing line, and one other sprint there as well. Cadell Evans now, the rider, looking very pensive here. He's a little bit concerned about the altitude, but I know deep down that Cadell is quietly confident he can do something here. But he doesn't know how his body will react, and he can't give you a definitive answer on that.
Well, none of these riders can, Phil. This year in the Tour de France, they finished at the highest point that the Tour de France has ever finished, and that was the mountaintop finish at the summit of the Col du Galibier, and that was 8,500 feet, or 2,600 meters. So we've got some mountain passes in this race this year, which are 1,000 meters higher, or 3,000 feet in excess of what we finished at the Tour de France.
Well, I caught a glimpse of Cadell. There he is, riding alongside George Hincapie, who is completed his 16th Tour de France this July. He will look to do the record-breaking 17th next year. He is the man who will talk Cadell through this race and look after him whenever he can. Back up to the front now as these two riders continue. Change of pacemaker here. Brad is now doing a little bit of the work. Brad White.
No, I'll tell you what, Cadell Evans, Phil, I think if you looked at his face when he crossed the finishing line in the individual time trial yesterday, it was a face and a mask of pure concentration. Yes, he pushed himself across the pain barrier for quite a period of time, but the reason he did that was to get himself a good finish, and finishing in 9th place, that's an indication that he's still got the good form that took him to the overall victory in the Tour de France. And as we start to get into the big highlands, I think that long 16 kilometer time trial in a couple of days' time around Vale, that will tilt over to the advantage of a guy like Cadell Evans.
Yes, the next couple of days are going to prove some interesting pointers, I think. Tomorrow the Cottonwood Pass and, of course, the Independence Pass. We've got the two teams who are taking control of this race. The boys in black are Garmin Cervelo, and the two riders at the front are HTC High Road, who have, of course, the race leader on the squad. It's their job to set the pace because they've got the leader. But Garmin are also very much interested in this. They've got two spearheads in Christian van der Velde and Tommy Danielson. And they had a good start in the time trial yesterday. These are the two boys up front just getting on with the job in hand. The gap continuing to hold at around about for 3.5 minutes. It started to come down, but I think it should. This is about now when it should come down.
Well, you see, once we start to get through the town of Gunnison, once we've gone through that sprint point, Phil, we're going to veer off to the right-hand side on these riders. They'll start to pick up a very nasty crosswind. It's been headwind for most of the time that the breakaway's been off the front end of this main field, and that will have been eating into their energy. They'll be starting to weaken as they get towards the end of this race, and you just watch how quickly, once we get into the final 30 kilometers of this race, or the last 20 miles of racing, how quickly their time advantage starts to tumble.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. So, you know, we are going through almost desert-like conditions here. That's why there's no spectators. There's no way they can get here. Just in unison here, the Schleck brothers, both almost synchronized cycling this. The Schleck brothers, Frank and Andy. Frank is number 22, just taking food out of their pockets. They're safely in the pack. I think they'll just keep their eye on proceedings today, Paul, unless they see something happen on the final climb.
Well, it depends. I think Frank, number 22, he's the guy who always tries to look and see whether or not he can find himself a victory here and there. He's got the tactical head to get himself a victory. And if he sees it's a group of 15 or 20 riders and he's got a chance of jumping out of the pack to get himself a stage victory, you watch out for him, because he's that kind of rider. I think, on the other hand, Andy, he will just hold back a little bit and think about further down the week.
Now, looking behind the riders here, back towards the Monarch Pass, it probably looks just as well they've come over the top of that now, because it looks to me as though it's raining behind the riders right now, while in the front the skies are blue as they approach Gunnison itself. That's where we change direction, we turn right, so it'll become a crosswind once we do make that right turn, and the riders continue on. But the backdrops are absolutely sensational today. It is almost as if somebody's gone out with a paintbrush and a big canvas and they've painted the mountains behind the riders. That's how it looks.
Well, that's the amazing thing. It's a very difficult technology, HD television, to bring on a moving venue like this. Normally you look at it being fixed in a stadium, but once we do start to get stable pictures, we are getting some magnificent views of Colorado, and we're getting an idea to see just exactly how professional teams work, because although we very often think about the sport of professional cycling, Phil, being a sport of individuals, you cannot ride well in a race like this, the USA Pro Cycling Challenge or the Tour de France, without a solid team behind you to help you on stages like this.
And although it doesn't appear it, we have climbed in the last half hour some 300 feet. So even though we're not on the high mountains, we are still moving up. And we've climbed since the start of the race today 7,135 feet. It's going to be a lot more than that by the time we get to the line, because we finished today at nearly 9,500 feet.
Yeah, that's around about 2,200 meters in altitude that the riders. That's just the accumulated amount of riding. But when you see these guys getting out of the saddle like that, that's an indication that this is not a flat road. This road, in fact, is slightly uphill, and you can now start to see a little bit of the pain appearing in the pedaling action of Brad White, United Healthcare Pro Cycling Team there, as these riders, they've been in the saddle right from the very word go.
Yes, a nice steady pace, but it's not been a quick day. They've only just averaged around 31 kilometers an hour for the day of racing, but of course it has included a long climb at the Monarch Pass from the gun. So we should improve on that average speed before we get to Gunnison. That's the first sprint of the day. It'd be good if these guys stayed away until then. They'd snatch the small time bonuses. which might be crucial by the end of the day. So as we gaze out of the Crested Butte here, high above the town of Great Crested Butte, Mountain Crested Butte, all on the slope here of the mountain. We're getting closer and closer to the finish. Nearly 3 hours they've been racing now, and 2 versus the rest. The beauty of Colorado here now as we catch up with the peloton and the 2 lone leaders down there. They're about 3.5 minutes ahead, and that's why that they're not getting too far away. They could be seen over these long straight roads here, which are twisting and turning, but it's still the same highway. And this is Jay Thompson on the front again now. Brad White, the man from Holland, Michigan, who also took part in the recent Tour of Utah, but he retired on stage 5. Now, as we look at our XT race tracker here, just looking down at Brad White in those stripes of United Healthcare, which also present the stage today, so we've got to have a man from them in the front. And a drink required by Jay Thompson, the South African, who was second in the South African Time Trial Championships very early in the year, because they run their championships in their summer down in the southern hemisphere, which is in South Africa, of course. A little bit of an acceleration here coming from Brad White at the moment, but the peloton itself just continuing on, no real concern. They might believe that these riders will crack under their own volition when they get to the climb.
Well, I think they will, and of course, once we do get to Gunnison, Phil, and we start to swing across to the right-hand side, you'll see a full-on professional chase after these 2 leaders, and we'll see a difference in the pace of probably 25 miles an hour for the 2 leaders and close to 30 to 35 miles an hour for the main field. And it is now Garmin Cervelo who've taken a very keen interest in the operations of the peloton.
The maillot jaune, or the yellow jersey there, the Quiznos leader, and that is Patrick Gresh. He was not surprised when he won yesterday, and I take my hat off him to that, because he said afterwards at the finishing line, no, I saw myself as a favourite, he said, because I'd set my heart on winning the opening prologue time trial. And he is a good time trialist. He's got the pedigree from his young days of under 23, when he has been a silver and a bronze medalist in the under 23 World Championship. So we should have perhaps kept a closer eye on him yesterday.
Well, Tommy Danielson, number 31 there, just sitting in the wings. He's allowing all of his teammates to ride in front of him. They will do the pacemaking. Their job is to make sure that he gets to the foot of the final climb of the day in as rested position as possible as you can, riding in a race over 160 kilometers.
Yes, Tommy D, I think, is nurturing a secret dream, and that's to win this race when we get back to Denver on Sunday. Before then, though, there are a lot of mountains in between here and Denver. We go to all the famous towns: Aspen, Vail, Steamboat Springs. That's where the USA ski team do a lot of their training for winter. We are getting closer and closer now to Gunnison. That'll be the Smashburger sprint in Gunnison. Will there be a right turn? I'm not actually sure whether the sprint's before the right turn or after it, because we're on Main Street once we make that right turn in Gunnison.
Yeah, these guys have still got themselves an advantage of 3.5 minutes. TJ Van Garderen wearing the blue Sheets jersey for the best young rider. That was because of his performance in the time trial yesterday. 8th for him, looking for 8 seconds. And he will also, Phil, I think today, be looking to try and move up a little bit further in the overall standings. He was so close to getting himself a stage victory in the Tour de France this year. He was looking for that stage victory up to the big climb outside of Superbès. And I think just a little bit more experience, and he probably could have got himself the victory on that occasion.
Yes, they qualify, by the way, for the best young rider in the race if you're born on the 1st or later in 1988 of the year 1988. And unfortunately, Gretsch just missed out there. He was born in 1987, and so even though he won the stage, he wasn't able to apply the most young riders, best young riders jersey.
You see, all the teams are now starting to amass together. They're starting to get together in one block, and that's because they're starting to get themselves to the more important tactical part of this course. A lot of pacemaking being done there by Hayden Ralston on the front. He's a very strong Kiwi bike rider, and he's been a great pursuiter on the track. He's been a very good individual time trialist. His job here, set the pace for as long as possible. It won't be 65 miles an hour. That was the speed sign you might have just noticed over there on the right-hand side of the road. But in fact, they've done a good job, Team HTC High Road, because they've just all of a sudden, Phil, shaved 30 seconds off the advantage of the 2 leaders.
Yes, well, somebody has said it's time to go, and the pressure has really gone on here now. They'll hear it from behind. It is almost back to 3 minutes flat now as we approach Gunnison. I don't think they'll catch him before the time bonus sprint in Gunnison, but they'll certainly try. After that, though, the road tends to kick up.
No, it certainly does, and that's when it starts to get just that little bit grippy. The difficult part of the stage now, the only real hard part, is that final 5 kilometers up to the finishing line, and that's when I think we'll start to see any of the weaker boys just throwing out the sandbags and getting left behind.
Oh, we had a good run with our pictures there, but for the moment they're not with us. We'll be back at those in a moment.
Yep.
So this is the finishing approach here. So as we continue now towards the finishing line, the interesting part of the race is about to start. As we approach Gunnison, the big boys are licking their lips as we head towards the end of the opening full day of racing in the USA Pro Cycling Challenge. See you in a moment. These are the two leaders now, and we're on the outskirts of Gunnison here, which is a major town in this part of the world. It's a long way for the people of Crested Butte when they go shopping. This is where they would go for their major big-time shopping, or they would go to Grand Junction, probably over the other side of the mountain. Now this carries a 3-second time bonus, 2 seconds and 1 second, so we've got a small time bonus sprint coming up. This is the Smashburger sprint. There's 2 of these today. The next one comes in the town of Crested Butte before we climb through and up to the finishing line. Seconds at the moment really do matter because we're only leading the race with Gretsch at 2 seconds, and this is in a major move. It looks like Brad White may have got the drop here on Jay Thompson, because he has. He's put 3 seconds in the bank, and clearly Jay was not expecting that.
No, that was a very smart move there. He got the jump on him immediately, but now they have to get back together as friends and continue to collaborate to try and conserve as much of their advantage as possible. What will be interesting to note, Phil, is that a little bit further back, there's still 1 second remaining to see if anybody is going to take advantage of that sprint to the line to try and get it, or whether the big leaders of this race are going to bank everything on the finishing climb.
That's right, because at the moment the peloton will be thinking, we're not worried about these couple of seconds of these guys at the front. Now, have you ever seen an American flag bigger than that one, Paul?
Actually not.
Well, I reckon that's on the end of a fire service ladder. I'm pretty sure it is. I've seen this before in the Tour of California, where the fire service, and it is on the back of a fire tender there. The crowd have really waited to see this race. It's really been built up here. All of the local shops are saying we welcome the riders in the Pro Tour and the Pro Challenge. And look at the crowd there. Just look how many there are. And you can hear them anyway.
Yeah, no, there's a big crowd, and there's a huge crowd. Actually, it stayed up here in the hotels in Mount Crested Butte last night. It was very, very difficult to try and find a spare bedroom. And for these guys, I think they will be very happy to have the USA Pro Challenge come back here again, because not only is an event like this great for the sport, it's also great for a state, and it's also incredibly good for an economy.
Yes, it is, and all the hotels are full, I'm happy to say, around the area because of the race coming in here. A lot of people have arrived with their mountain bikes to make a weekend of it and to just watch the race when it comes and goes. Aspen, by the way, is only 32 kilometers away if you go over the mountains, as we have another look here at the sprint. And it was well, Jay Thompson lost it on the jump, so that was the Smashburger points going in the back there for Brad White. The peloton themselves roll on, continuing to go, and the gap at the moment is a solid 3 minutes. So they're holding them, but they're not getting any closer to them. I think what you're saying is right, Paul, though. We're going to have a great sprint for 3rd place.
No, well, it's extremely important, because we all know that it's all about seconds, and 1 second could decide the change in the overall leaderboard at the end of today. And watch out for Patrick Gretsch, because you know, a couple of extra seconds out on the course could keep him in the yellow jersey for an extra day.
True indeed. Our pictures aren't behaving at all just at the moment, but let's hope they steady up for that sprint for 3rd place. The lead is now making the way out of Gunnison. The peloton, there's somebody slipping off the front of the peloton as well, and there it is. It's a United Healthcare rider who has tried to get away from the field here and steal the day, but they've got him back here. Or has he gone over the line? No, he's cleared. There's the line. So it's a 3rd place for the United Healthcare rider, but I can't recognize him at the moment.
Well, 2 minutes and 40 seconds is the official time gap now, so obviously they're doing a fairly good job. They've almost shaved a minute off the advantage of the 2 leaders, still Jay Thompson and Brad White. And those 2 riders starting the day 23 seconds and 31 seconds adrift in the overall standings. But once we make the right-hand turn now, Phil, and start to head down the valley, which brings us to Crested Butte, you'll start to see a change in the weather patterns and definitely a change in the wind direction. And that's what I think will start to go against the advantage of the 2 men in the lead.
Yeah, Yes, and definitely a change in the race pattern as well. All lights on green now as the riders plough through these magnificently wide streets here of Gunnison. We're right in the center of the state of Colorado here. And as the peloton is being driven now by Garmin-Cervelo, they must have a plan here. And Tommy Danielson is going to try and steal seconds at the finish.
No, I think he will, and but watch out for his own teammate, because he's sitting extremely comfortably. Christian van der Velde, he just has to sit there and hope that Patrick Gretsch cracks, and he can kind of try and inherit the overall leader's jersey. Because van der Velde, as an older, more seasoned professional bike rider, he knows tactically how to keep himself out of danger on a race like this.
Well, you can hear the crowds of Gunnison enjoying the spectacle as the riders head on now up towards Crested Butte. We get the next sprint, which will come in Crested Butte. That comes at 154.8 kilometers, 96 kilometers, leaving not too far to race up to the finishing line itself. A lot of change of action at the front now, a lot of movement. Team BMC on the right here for Cadel Evans. Watch the boys in orange, dead center. He's twitchy and looking everywhere because Robert Hessink also wants to put up a top performance here. The Dutchman who rode very well in this year's Tour de France. Well, we're getting into the crucial last few miles of the day today. This sprint I don't think will matter too much. When we get through to the next sprint, we'll be very, very close to the finish. It won't be bye-bye just yet, Brad. Let's have a look at the United Healthcare top 5 in the American overall standings. Christian van der Velde finished second yesterday. Brent Buchwald was third. George Hincapie at the Evergreen George was 6th. Levi Leipheimer 7th, and TJ also there in 8th. As we rejoin the action now, we're just leaving Gunnison as we now turn to the right and start to make our way up towards Crested Butte and onwards towards the finishing line, which is some 3 miles further on. Christian van der Velde, though, is the man who is likely to take the next yellow jersey if he can finish up around the front there today. Van der Velde looking very relaxed at the moment, Paul. You know, yesterday a little bit of a funny tale because he started so early in the time trial, and he was on the massage chair when he was called back to get his second place prize. But in the Tour de France this year, he really found himself, didn't he?
No, I think he certainly did. Christian van der Velde, he's had some bad luck throughout his career over the past couple of years with bad accidents and incidents, but certainly he's become one of the stalwarts of Team Garmin-Cervelo, and he knows how to look after guys, and he was pretty much responsible for looking after Tommy Danielson and aiding him to get 9th place overall.
Yes, and let's not forget that Garmin-Cervelo won the team race in the Tour de France this year, and van der Velde was on the main players there. Of course, Tommy D led them because he finished 9th in the Tour de France. And they're very proud of that fact, and well, they should be. So today they might feel they are the team to take over again. He's in the center of the pack, Christian van der Velde. He's waiting for the moment to perhaps move up, but he'll feel like a protected rider today, and that means he doesn't have to go to the front and set the pace.
No, certainly, and I just noticed moving up on scuttling up on the other side of the peloton as well was Tommy Danielson. Those two riders will ride their own races. They'll use their teammates to make sure they're placed near the front of the pack for the start of the climb, but after that it's going to be every man for himself.
Yes, it's going to be an intriguing end to the day, I think, and they continue to chase down, but the gap is locked in at 3 minutes.
Garmin-Cervelo.
And it's been so consistently locked in at 3 minutes. I'm beginning to suspect that our computer isn't working either today, because I feel that the speed of this group now is closing in on those two riders up front. Can't think that the tandem up there is holding off this peloton at this sort of a speed. And as they continue on, they will keep straining their necks to see if they're closing in. So the two riders at the front, workload, well, Jay Thompson has done most of it at the front, but right now it's Brad White. He's got 47% contributed to him. He's also got the Smashburger Special Sprint Award as well, where he gets some cash for that, as well as the 3 seconds time bonus. That time bonus is taken off his time for the day. That's why it's a bonus, because at the end of the 6 days of racing, it's the man with the lowest time who wins the race.
But the biggest time gaps and the biggest time bonuses are available on the finishing line. For the first three riders to cross the finishing line, 10 seconds taken off your time, 6 seconds and 4 seconds. And that's the most important thing that a lot of the riders in the peloton will be thinking about, especially guys like the Schleck brothers, who lost a little bit of time yesterday in the prologue time trial. They're not very good individual prologue riders, so what they would like to do is maybe pull themselves a little bit higher up in the overall standings.
Well, our picture's just chosen to freeze again there. I was trying to show you a relationship situation. Here we are down the long highway through the desert here. It really is, you know, for us Brits, it's like being in the real Wild West of the days gone by out here in Colorado. As we see such famous names as Fort Collins, you can imagine the soldiers riding out into the desert from Fort Collins in 100 years ago. There's the peloton now. It's a long, long line, and there's proof of that now. So it looks as though the computer has woken up, because they're predicting a catch at around about 12.5 kilometers to go. Just over 7 miles from the finish, they are predicting the catch.
Well, that's a good distance to catch the leading group of 2, because that gives the riders in the peloton a chance to get themselves organized before the start of the final climb of the day, which is a 5-kilometer climb, or 3 miles of racing. And in fact, Phil, just looking at the 2 leaders now, you can almost notice that there's not quite as much energy in their pedaling action, and that's because they're still picking up a very strong cross headwind, and they've been battering themselves into this for the last 80 kilometers or so, and now I think it's starting to pay.
Now, for those of you that understand the gearing systems on bikes, you might be interested in the gears these riders are climbing. Because these hills are long but not very steep, you'll be surprised to hear the gearings are quite high. The front chain wheels will have 53 toothed chain wheel at the front and 39 on the inside, and then you go to the rear cluster at the back, which will be 11 through to 25 or 26. Not really the lowest gears you would expect, because they're around about 6% these slopes, or even shallower. It's not the height of the climb, the steepness of the climbs, it's the length of them and the high altitude that everybody is concerned about.
Yeah, the other thing that to compare this to these kind of climbs as well to the kind of climbs in the Pyrenees or the Alps, the surface of these roads, the pavement or the tarmac at them, is extremely smooth, and that allows the riders to have a much better rolling resistance and allows them to go pretty fast when they start to come up these 6% gradients. And still, looking around those corners, you can't quite yet see that 2-man breakaway, because it's still hovering on the 2 minutes 15-second advantage as HTC. This is a real collaboration now between these 2 big Americans teams at HTC High Road and Garmin Cervelo.
Yes, I think Paul's right. The computer's finally woken up now. It's suddenly gone from 3 minutes to 2:25, so it is coming down quite rapidly at the moment. And now we're through Gunnison, of course. We're heading for Crested Butte, and there's no towns in between, so we'll stay out in the country as they race up towards that ridge of mountains, which are always not far away here in the Rockies for the riders of the USA Pro Cycling Challenge, until we get back to Denver. The last stage starting in Golden and going down into Denver itself. Well, the tempo has clearly picked up now. Computer says about 7 miles from the finish, everybody will be all together. Well, if they are, it's going to make for a very exciting finale when they come here to the finishing line in Great Crested Butte. Salida to Crested Butte, brought to you by United Healthcare today. It's the first full opening day of racing in the USA Pro Cycling Challenge. We had the prologue yesterday, which gave us our first leader in Patrick Gretsch of Germany. Today, though, we expect it to change as we finish here at Great Crested Butte at around about 9,400 feet above sea level. The hills are all around the 2 leaders, who have been out front for most of the day today, but they've had to cross the Valley Road, if that's the right expression, from the big pass there, and they're heading up towards the finish now. Steady, steady, steady uphill all of the time. They've total climbing done today so far, 7,626 feet. We allowed another 2,000 feet onto that before the finish as they continue to grind their way steadily uphill. These wide open boulevards favour the chasers, Paul.
No, it doesn't. You can see the organisation. The 2 big stormtrooping teams from the United States, HTC High Road, Garmin Cervelo, sitting in the wings. Radio Shack, they're not too concerned. They're allowing everybody else to do the pacemaking. They're waiting for later in the event. Although we're not seeing much work being done by BMC Racing, they're always sitting there in the wings, waiting to take over control if they have to.
Yes, and I'd like to take control of our television picture at the moment, because they're still breaking up. from the helicopter. It's there's a lot of real stormy weather around. We've even had an earthquake, which is over 5 on the Richter scale in the southern part of the state, down by New Mexico. We've also had one in New York today as well, so the weather patterns are a little bit disturbed just at the moment, but nonetheless these boys are more disturbed by the couple of minutes gap. It's come inside 2 minutes now. It's 1 minute and 50 seconds according to the computer, so they're going to have them, and it won't be far off what computer says.
Now, Chris Butler just sitting at the back. A quick glimpse there of the rider from who was born in Hilton Head, South Carolina. As, he nowadays lives in Greenville, South Carolina. Moved up there so they could ride alongside Georgie Hincapie. And in fact, he rode for George Hincapie's development squad for a number of years before he moved across to play with the big boys.
A lot of riders here just allowing. There's Oscar Sevilla in the black, just slipping off, looking across the camera, almost as if you heard me tell him his name there. He is a rider who's finished 4th in the recent Tour of Utah. He is on form, and he will be looking forward to the finish. It might be a bit quick for him up to the finishing line.
Yeah, a lot of people say good things about number 8 there, Chris Butler. He is going to develop, I think, into an extremely good climber, given a couple more years to serve his apprenticeship alongside guys like Cadel Evans and, of course, George Hincapie. I also just spotted number 81, United Healthcare rider Rory Sutherland. He's a man who could probably accompany the leaders on the slopes of this climb. He rode a very good Amgen Tour of California in the early part of this season.
He did, and down near San Jose, he was on the high mountain there, up the Sierra Road, and he finished, I think it was 3rd, but that was the day that proved decisive. That was the day that decided the Amgen Tour of California, and Chris Horner romping away to victory on that day, and onwards again. Now looking here into the pack, Lawrence Tendam, the Rabobank boy there. You can't see his face, but it has healed remarkably from that horrible crash he had in the Alps in the Tour de France. We had it all on camera as he went off-road and he fell forward. He went over the handlebars, and he really did hit his face heavily on the road. It was an ugly crash, to say the least. And as he sat down there on the road, he required in the end 8 stitches. The ambulance was on the scene as fast as it could get there. Well, we thought it was curtains for Lawrence. We have to be absolutely honest. We didn't think he'd get up from that one, but he did, and he finished. And then there's an amusing aside, when we saw him arrive here in Denver for the start of this race, we arrived on the same flight. In fact, he was sat on his suitcase by the conveyor, and they used little beagle dogs to check you out for anything you shouldn't be taking into the United States, and they took his chicken sandwich off him.
I thought that was very mean. They should have given him the opportunity to maybe eat it there and keep himself topped up with energy, knowing that he was about to start the USA Pro Cycling Challenge. Anyway, I was amazed with the way not only Phil did he finish that stage, but he carried on to finish the Tour de France. An extremely brave bike ride. And let's not forget, in the early part of the year, he finished 5th overall in the Santos Tour Down Under in Australia.
He's had a fabulous season, and he earned his place in the Tour de France because he was riding well in the classics also. So he got his just results there to ride the Tour de France. Look at this here now. We've got enough water in here now for the whole of Colorado.
And that's Hayden Rawson there in the black and white jersey, the New Zealand road racing champion, and still plenty of work being done by Craig Lewis, number 45. He knows he's going to disappear from the peloton down towards the end of this stage here this afternoon, because his job is to make sure that he can pull that leading group back. And in fact, the gap now is starting to tumble very quickly, Phil, because the 2 leaders now only have 1 minute and 40 seconds advantage.
Which means that very shortly they will be able to be seen by the peloton on these long roads, which don't change direction all of that often. We're heading towards Crested Butte itself. It's a delightful little town. It's got an old part to it as well, and all around it, of course, are the Rockies. But they do have here in one of the shops is the Hall of Fame of mountain biking, because they have a lot of major mountain bike happenings in this region.
Nearly all of these valleys around this part of Colorado are actually linked together by incredible mountain bike tracks, although 1 or 2 of them, I believe, Phil, are rather precarious, and there's lots of scree riding around here, so you've got to make sure you control yourself and you don't want to lose your front wheel on one of those descents.
No, you don't. It's a long way down from the top as the riders, we're looking at the leader here in the yellow jersey, which is sponsored by Quiznos. It's on the shoulders of Patrick Gretsch after yesterday's effort. 2 seconds better than Van der Velde, the American, 4 better than Buchwalter, 5 better than Robert Forster, who's actually a sprinter. That was a great ride by Robert, 4th. And Jens Voigt, nearly 40 years of age, can never slow down, Jens.
No, Voigt, he always is a great competitor. This man now in the yellow jersey, the Quiznos yellow jersey, as leader of the Pro Cycling Challenge. He must be wondering whether or not he's going to be able to hold on to that lead for one more day with just a 2-second advantage over Christian van der Velde, who is certainly an extremely good climber.
Yeah, second time this year he's held a leader's jersey as well. Now, just looking here across the skies, our pictures are still jumping a little bit, but hopefully as they get closer to us, they're not that far away from us now as the crow flies. That's where they're coming, up to Crested Butte today. The crowd is ready. There's a big crowd here as well. Well, if they came early, they can't go anywhere else because there's only one road back from this, and it's closed right now for the arrival of the USA Pro Cycling Challenge. The Flowbots there, who will be performing live, by the way, on the last day of this race in Denver. Now let's have a look at the United Healthcare race summary. 4 riders in that breakaway. They've now split down to Beltran won the King of the Mountains. Brad White has won the only sprint. One more coming up, and the two of them are still together, Brad White and Jeremy Thompson. The gap is now, though, only 1 minute and 25 seconds. Now, he's still there, but he's done well to get back into the race convoy here. Thomas Peterson, the 24-year-old, riding for Garmin Cervelo. Now he's amongst the cars. He should get up to the pack pretty soon. A little bit of respite here. A slight downhill. The convoy are queuing up, so Peterson making good progress here. He was lucky, Paul. That was a bit of a long delay, but he's recovered well.
Well, he has, and he's just going to take advantage and make his way through the convoy of cars. He doesn't need to panic too much. He knows that his teammates will know exactly where he is in the race, and they'll give him a chance to catch back up. But you can almost see these guys. When you see riders' shoulders starting to rock, like the man sitting on the front there, Brad White, that's an indicator that it's pretty difficult now just to try and keep the average speed nice and high. We're halfway along the Valley Road. There is another sprint point where the riders have a chance to get 3, 2, and 1 second time bonuses. The big question comes, Phil, will these riders survive to that point? There you can get a chance to see how much uphill we're starting to find.
Yeah, we're on the way up now. There's no more going down. It's steady, 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 but we've just cracked 8,000 feet now of climbing, so we're going up to 9,400 today. And look at that road here from the helicopter now. Stunning scenery, yes, but the peloton grinding their way up at the bottom of our picture. And you can see now the gap officially is 1 minute and 20 seconds right now. And that's the sort of gap that it is with the riders ahead of the field. But they'll be in their sights now. They will see the helicopters over them. They'll know where those leaders are.
No, they certainly will, and they're starting to come into the long straight part of this long valley road, and I think they'll have a chance, Phil, to actually just notice exactly what the difference is between them. A little bit of a problem at the back. This is Daniel Caligarin, an Italian rider on Team Type 1, taking on board water. These riders, under the rules and regulations, are allowed to take on board water after they've covered normally 50 kilometers of the race, and allowed to take on board water up until 30 kilometers to go. But if the weather conditions are a little bit more difficult, the race referees have the chance to extend that.
Yeah, and I think under these conditions and at altitude, that rule will be extended when they're approaching an uphill finish, because we're inside the 20-mile, 32-kilometer point now, 19.5 miles left to ride at the moment. They continue to push on, the long line indicating they are now working hard to reduce that gap. So we've got to hand it to those two leaders, who are certainly not going to crack unless they have to. Continuing here now to set the pace on the front is Peter Velits. That's an interesting one.
It is very interesting, because I thought that Peter Velits would be the co-leader of this HTC High Road, but that's obviously an indication that they have one leader at the USA Pro Cycling Challenge, and that, of course, is going to be all for TJ Van Garderen, the new kid on the block.
He's in the best young jersey after yesterday. In fact, the HTC High Road squad won all 3 major prizes. They won the stage, obviously, with Gretsch. They also got the most aggressive rider of the day with Danny Pate. Now, Levi Leipheimer, I think, is a real danger today. He wants to continue his winning ways on American soil. He's the champion of the Tour de California over the years. He also won for the last 2 years the Tour of Utah. But in the Tour de France, where he really was in condition to podium, he had a horrible 2 days where, approaching the finish on both days, he was having serious problems. A clip of the barrier here in torrential rain, and he was losing time. That really hurt him, and he lost a little bit of time, and sooner or later he was out of the hunt for overall. But it was a different story in the Tour of Utah, which has only just finished. Although he was beaten by the Colombians on occasions, he got the best time. He defended a title he won a year ago.
Well, as you said, Phil, just finishing his teammate there, Yanni Brakovic, finishing in 3rd place overall. I think the difficult thing for the whole of the Team Radio Shack, they had so much bad luck.
Yes, and despite that bad luck, let's remind ourselves they are having one terrific good season. But Levi Leipheimer, that's the man probably for this event. So let's find out if that is the case, because Levi's talking this morning with Bobby Roll.
Levi, were you satisfied with your prologue yesterday?
You know, after a few minutes and realizing, you know, all the factors and conditions, I actually was. I think it's not a course that suited me, and you know, they say the conditions changed. So if you look at the results, I think I did pretty well.
Today, two pretty tough climbs out on the race course and a climb to the finish. Do you expect today to be a general classification stage?
I think there could be gaps in the end. Yeah, I think it's a hard, punchy sprint, and that's gonna hurt. It's gonna be very dynamic and aggressive there right at the end.
And yourself personally, do you have some aspirations for today's stage to do something to go big, as they say?
No, you know, the most important day is Vail, and tomorrow's a big day. So today is, I think, about just not losing time and staying out of trouble.
All right, Levi, good luck.
Thanks.
Well, he'll be 38 years of age in October, Levi Leipheimer, but he certainly is a great tactician. He's he's expecting these two to be swept up, obviously, and it's an all-out fight for the line amongst the group. It won't be a sprinter's finish, it'll be a strong rider's finish, and you must finish alongside them. In cycling, when there's no obvious gap between the riders, there is no separate time given. And I think Leipheimer today will just want to make sure there's no gap and he loses no time, but we'll see. These are the two boys plodding a lonely trail towards Crested Butte right now. They've done 81 miles of the planned 99 miles today, and the workload being shared equally by Brad and Jay out there on the road, and the American and the South African friends for the day. The gap is still sitting at around 1 minute and 15 seconds, so they've lost another 5 seconds there. And they know they'll continue to lose time, but can they stay away? There's one more sprint to come, which is in Crested Butte itself. We've always been climbing steadily to Crested Butte, but once you leave Crested Butte up towards Great Crested Butte, that is the difficult ascent up to the line. Now, it's not an absolute leg breaker, but we are going through 9,000 feet, and that is the object. So they're going to have to keep a close eye on one another at that point. Hello, the camera is moving backwards now, so we're going to pick up the relationship here, and there they are. Not that far away a minute now when you see it like that, is it? The peloton are still a big pack of riders there. As far as we know, there's no one behind the race, but that may not be the case. We're sat at the finishing line, of course, and not always in contact out there on course. The big interesting factor is that the dominant riding of Garmin Cervelo, these riders in black, who are staying up near the front. Clearly, for me, looking to get a man in yellow tonight. Levi Leipheimer of Radio Shack would love to be in yellow tonight, but he may have to watch the others first. This rider, well, I don't think he'll be in yellow tonight. See you in a moment. Welcome back, and don't forget the cycling season's third and final Grand Tour, the Vuelta de España, is already underway. It's nearly a week in now, but you can watch every stage live on Universal Sports. Daily coverage always begins at 10 a.m. Eastern Time, and check your local listing for details. Well, this is the crowd now. They've come off their mountain bikes and out of their condos, and they're all ready for the finish. Finish is still a little while away. We're 81 miles into a 99-mile day. These boys are hanging on in there as the gap is going up very slightly again, about 1 minute 25. And this is still Brad White, who is in the blue, and also Jay Thompson. Now, we've gone through Gunnison, which is the first green sprint S. There's one more, which is in Crested Butte itself. And then, as you can see by the profile, it kicks out of Crested Butte up to the finishing line on Gothic Avenue. Don't they look like watercolor behind them? Well, as these two riders continue on, oblivious to the chase, it is easy to see now the Garmin Cervelo, the riders in black, the American Tour de France team winners, want the race lead by the end of this day. The obvious candidate is second overall, Christian Van der Velde from just outside of Chicago, Illinois. and he's only 2 seconds behind Gretsch. Now 2 seconds in this sort of a finish, you can open that up in a sprint because of the climb up from Crested Butte to the line.
Yeah, that's what it's all about. It's all going to be the big sort-out, but it's been a long, hard chase for the riders from HTC and, of course, from Garmin-Cervelo. They've left a lot of firepower out on the road, and they're going to have to turn over the responsibility of the ascent to their team leaders. The team leaders who will be dedicated, Tommy Danielson and Christian Vandervelde. But you can't discount guys like Ryder Hazedahl, a very good rider from Canada, finished in the top 10 in the Tour de France. And, of course, interesting to see how Peter Stetten is going to handle riding with the big boys for the first time this year.
Yes, and Peter Velits, who seems to be doing all of the work at the front. We thought it might have saved him a little bit, but they seem to be using him. No wins this year for Peter Velits, but he is a very, very good bike rider. He won a stage at the Tour of Italy once, and he was the first Slovakian rider to podium in a Grand Tour when he finished third in the Tour of Spain. I said Tour of Italy, I meant Tour of Spain. But looking here at the pictures, the green jersey, he's been taking on food and drink very wisely all day. TJ Van Garderen is the rider who's just in front of him. He's in the young rider's blue jersey. The peloton from the helicopter is clearly speeding along the highway right now. A long, long line at the front. Our computer is not revealing the truth, I don't think. 1:15 is what it continually says. This gap has got to be coming down.
No, I think so. When you see the length of that line of the riders at the front from various different teams, that's an indicator the pressure is starting to get turned up, and we're starting to see a proper organisation. And they're a little bit further back. These are the riders who are probably just happy to be riding along for the day. Just sitting there, number 3, Brent Walter. He's a little bit too far back for my liking. He, in fact, is in third place in the overall standings after a very good ride in the prologue time trial yesterday.
Just looking here at the deadpan faces on the two leaders, respectively, the young rider and the race itself, Van Garderen and Gretsch. Well, again, before the start today, Bob Rowe was a very busy man at the start, and earlier he interviewed Jeff Schaffer, who is the Global Marketing Director of Pearl Izumi.
I'm here with Jeff Schaefer from Pearl Izumi, the Global Marketing Manager. You guys have plenty of bike races to choose from to sponsor. Why have you guys chosen the US Pro Cycling Challenge?
We have is about an hour and a half from here, and Pearl Izumi's been in Colorado as our home base for about 30 years. That was a big one, so we wanted to celebrate the return of Pro Tour racing to Colorado. For us to kind of showcase what we do best from a fabric technology, fit, performance, etc. So really a good opportunity for us. The jerseys that you'll see the racers in that we've produced are all custom fit with our anatomic sleeve construction. So it's going to be an exciting chance for us to get those jerseys out into the public.
And right behind us, they're putting the actual sponsors' decals on the jersey, so you'll be on the fly the whole race.
Yep, that's exactly right. Ron Rod from our speed shop is traveling across the state of Colorado at a quick pace, and we'll be putting the logos on those speed jerseys as we go.
So all the race leaders should look fabulous.
They should. We have a saying in the office, which is we got to friends can't let friends ride around in bike jerseys that are flapping around in the back. And
that's a long description.
Yeah. So we're really excited. It's going to be a great week for us, and we think for the state of Colorado as well.
All right. Well, thank you for being here.
Thanks.
Thanks, Bob and Jeff. Yes, a lot of people do write and ask me, how do they get those sponsors' name on those leaders' jerseys so quickly? You've got about 30 seconds, so you can imagine those irons flying over the jerseys around the back as soon as they see who crosses the finishing line and wins the major awards, so that when they come out on stage for those presentations, they have the right sponsors on it. It's all about professional cycling, isn't it? And I wonder which jersey they'll be putting on HTC or whatever by the time they get to the finish day. I've got a feeling it might be Garmin-Cervelo who'll be pulling on that yellow jersey tonight. They're certainly wanting it. They're making that quite clear. There is Robert Gessing, the taller, at the rear of those two riders in orange going through. He's the leader of the Rabobank team. Made again, no secret of the fact he's come here to win this race, and from here to go to ride in Montreal in their big race, which comes up shortly as well, where he rode exceptionally well there last year. He would love to win this race. A lot of anxious faces now forming in the pelotons. We race towards the perfect backdrop of the Rockies, and round to the left shoulder of the riders is the finishing line today. As they head up towards the finish at Great Crested Butte, they still hold on to an ever-diminishing lead. Yes, today's star town, Salida, ironically translates from Spanish to exit. Renowned for the nearby Monarch Crest, it's a popular destination for outdoorsmen in the summer and in the winter. Steeped in cycling tradition, Crested Butte is the perfect finish to stage 1 of the USA Pro Cycling Challenge. Said to be the birthplace of mountain biking, the former mining town is home to the Mountain Biking Hall of Fame. That's where we're bound for now on this second day of the race, as we head now deeper into the Rockies here. And the two leaders survive still. They're on a long straight road at the moment. Crested Butte literally tucked around the corner off their left shoulder. They've been in the lead for most of the day. There were 4, there are now 2 left. Jay Thompson from South Africa, but he races here in the USA, and also Brad White. Looking at Tommy Danielson here now, and his team are doing most of the chase back. Well, Tommy D looking very good in the peloton. The two leaders out up front are looking ahead. The empty road here closed down completely for the arrival of the race. This town was buzzing last night at the thought of this event finishing here. This is the inaugural USA Pro Cycling Challenge, and they were very, very excited with the arrival of the race. And they're going to see the whole thing flying to town very soon now. My computer, I think, is broken, Paul. A minute 15, it continues there. I just don't believe it.
Well, just looking at the relationship we got from the helicopter a couple of moments ago there, Phil, I would put it down at around about the 1 minute mark. It's all very much in the same straight now. As we have a quick look at the main field, you can see all of the teams getting themselves locked together. This is just before we start the organisation of getting riders to the front.
Our XD tracker there, just showing you Frank Schleck, looking very confident. Never too far away from Brother Andy, except I can't see Brother. Oh, Brother Andy is bottom left at about 7 o'clock on our picture. He's 2 bike riders back. He's never far from his bro. As we see these two boys just doing what we call bit and bits, sharing the pace together. The computer saying the work rate is 50%, dead even for both of them. So there's no weakness amongst these two. They're just hoping the peloton will ignore them for a little bit longer till they get onto the steeper slopes of Crested Butte.
Now that's the important thing for these two guys. They're just ticking out a rhythm now, waiting to get caught. Andy Schleck there, you can see just number 21. Slightly different coloured jersey to his brother. His brother, you might have noticed, had a couple of bands around the middle, a red one and a blue one. Well, that's because he's the Luxembourg national champion. Alongside him, number 11 there, you might also spot Levi Leipheimer, surrounded by all of his teammates. And wearing number 13 there from Radio Shack, George Bennett, got his number 13 upside down, hoping that some of the bad luck will run away.
Yeah, I think that was a trend that Fabian Cancellara started, wasn't it? Because he was superstitious, and that tends to break the superstition. Now all the riders seem to do it who wear number 13. There's Schleck just over the far side, number 21, having a little laugh with somebody there. He's not too far away from Ivan Basso. There he is. There's Basso himself. He has told us he wants to do well here. He was a little bit disappointed with his 8th place finish in the Tour de France, which everybody else in the world would be thoroughly delighted with, but not Ivan. He's been a 2nd and 3rd in previous Tours de France.
And of course, let's not forget, Phil, that he won the Giro d'Italia on 2 occasions. Over the last 10 minutes, HTC High Road have done 59% of the work, while 41% of the pacemaking has been done by Team Garmin Cervelo.
Bit surprised at that, because it's been Craig Lewis who's been doing all of the work for HTC High Road, but the Garmin boys have more than played their fair share here, and clearly indicating that we're going to have a minor explosion in the peloton when we get to these lower slopes. And Cadel Evans also, he wears number 1 there. He motivated his team also to ride near the front today. Cadel knows not necessarily out to win the stage, but he doesn't want to lose time to the big favourites of the race. So everybody's going to try and go together on this climb.
But if he sees an advantage, he will have a crack at it. Let's not forget that he was a winner of the stage to the top of the Mur de Bretagne in the early week of the Tour de France, and that was in a very dominant fashion. This is Team XRG coming to the front, and I have a feeling that because of the presence of Freddy Rodriguez in that team as the team captain, he's trying to get his team organised, because they've got, I think, some very good sprinters, very good climbers, I should say. Andres Diaz of Colombia and Carlos Alzate.
A new team, yes, but a team that wants to impress, and that's the way to do it at this stage of the race. As they run up towards the finish now, 12.9 miles left to go. And well, that's going to be a little bit of a shock, I think, to the teams like Garmin Cervelo, saying, what on earth are these guys doing coming up?
Well, it's the American riders on that squad that are doing the majority of that pacemaking. Phil Sam Johnson there, 135. Also up there, Eric Slack and Kai Appelquist. They're the ones who are sacrificing themselves, and you can be certain it's for the Colombian riders on their squad. Number 31, just sitting at the back of his teammates, Tommy Danielson. He could be the heir in waiting to be the winner of the inaugural USA Pro Cycling Challenge, coming off a very successful Tour de France. The whole of the team, I think, they would have a very hard job repeating what they did in the Tour de France this year. 4 stage victories, the yellow jersey for a good week of racing, and of course the team classification at the end of 3 weeks.
Yeah, it was absolutely marvellous for the team. There's no doubt about that. Now, looking down the back here, many of these riders will just be happy to finish with the peloton by the time we get to the finishing line in Crested Butte. Others can't be satisfied with that. They must try and put their leaders into a winning position and then fall away if that's the way it's going to be. And Danny Pate there, he was the most aggressive rider yesterday, and that was a nice reward for him. He's on the HTC High Road squad because he was living in, or still does live in, Colorado Springs. He's had to put over the grass cutting responsibility to his wife now while he gets on with his bike race.
Number 21 just sitting at the back there, that's Andy Schleck, and he shouldn't be in a position like this as we start to get into the last 11 or 12 miles of racing, because as you just saw that little zigzag across the road there, it's always in the back 50% of the main field that you get these silly little accidents, because the riders sitting at the back are normally the riders a little bit more tired, not quite got the same responses to moving left and right, and that is why I think Andy Schleck should be a little bit further forward.
Looking there at Robert Hessing, the Dutchman, 25 years of age now. He's had 3 wins this year, and he's ridden a pretty good Tour de France. And he's told us he wants to ride with success here. He's really put his back into preparation for this race, so he'll be looking not to lose any silly seconds on this finishing climb as well. I don't think he can win the stage, but it's all about not losing time today with 2 big mountains tomorrow. He's certainly whipped up the whole team around him at the moment. There's Danny Pate just passing through in the XG Most Aggressive Rider jersey. So as the riders continue on, they're still surviving. They're still closing in on the finish too. We're heading to 10 miles to go now. 2 men still in the lead by 70 seconds. It's been a long, hot day in the saddle, but the peloton remorselessly have closed in on the 2 leaders. The gap is down. 45 seconds to these 2 riders, who are no longer friends, by the way. Well, they had a little attack on each other. Now they're having a chat, and I think they realise the end is nigh here as we approach Crested Butte. The climb comes at the end here. We have the sprint in Crested Butte, and then we climb up right to the top to the finishing line itself. I think they've given up. As the leaders continue, Paul, they're not looking to have the same inspiration now. They must have got the same time check. It's gone down to 35 seconds, the gap now, as the peloton are in a long straight line at the front and stalking the 2 riders up front. The yellow jersey now on the shoulders of Patrick Gretsch. Well, he's going to start thinking now, can he survive this short 3-kilometre sprint to the top of the hill?
I believe, Phil, it just depends on how they attack the climb. If the climbers come out and change the rhythm, because the climbers can make changes of rhythm abominable on the slopes of a climb like this, he will not have that much of a chance. But if they set a hard tempo in the main field and there are no changes in rhythm, he could use his time trialing power to stay in contact with the group. But let's not forget, there's 10 seconds time bonus available for the first rider to cross the finishing line. In fact, just a little bit further up the road, there's a 3-second time bonus for the first riders to get into Crested Butte.
I think for the commentators it would have been less complicated if these 2 riders at the front had actually taken out those little time bonuses at Crested Butte and left it just up to the win, because there are 10 riders could take over the race lead if they win the stage and claim that 10-second time bonus, and that takes a little bit of calculating. They're 15 kilometers from the finish now, which is just over 9 miles from the finishing line. And as I say, the last 4.5 kilometers are the steepest slopes of the climb.
No, they certainly are, and just slipping to the back, and that's no surprise. Craig Lewis, number 45 there, did a phenomenal job for the team. Just a little bit further in front of him, number 48. Like Norris, the Australian rider, they too did a big amount of tempo riding to pull back that two-man breakaway. Now their job for the day is just to survive.
Yeah, absolutely. And a little bit of a problem here, it looks like, too, for one of the riders from Skill. I think it's Martin Rema from Skill, who's having a problem with his tensions on his shoes. They wind their shoes up with a little wheel, you know, just to tighten them up. And there's the catch too, I think, at the front. On the far side, they're all together. They actually surrendered as fast as that.
Yeah, I think they realized all of a sudden you know, when you've been in a breakaway for a long period of time and you look back and you can see that black mass of the main field starting to charge down on you, you know that all of a sudden it's over and done with. So that's why I think they raised the white flag in surrender. Now it's all a question of who is going to take the responsibility of charging into Crested Butte. And I think we will now, Phil, start to see a little bit of a sprint. You can just see the Colombian riders being moved up. That's Freddy Rodriguez, number 133, and he's moving his teammate up towards the front end of the main field, Carlos Alzate.
Yes, well, as we got that beautiful backdrop staring down on Crested Butte, he's now on the top of the riders here as they will swing right towards the finish. The whole field is back together again, and that's the first time since we left Salida this morning, but they're all in there, so they've all come together at 15 kilometers to go.
Yep, all, as they say in Italian, gruppo compacto, everybody completely back together now, and it's all a question of waiting to see if there's going to be any response from anyone in the main field, or are they all going to leave it down to a showdown on the final 5 kilometers of the stage, or 3 miles.
Yes, well, that's going to, whichever way it happens now, I think it'll be a showdown myself, but we should get a very good animated sprint coming into Crested Butte itself right now, because, you know, the rider who wins there could be paving his way to the next yellow jersey of the race.
That's what it's all about. You see the teams now getting themselves locked together, riding alongside their teammates, making sure that they keep Tommy Danielson 4th place in that line of Garmin Cervelo riders, up at the front of the pack, away from any possible of an incident. And he'll be looking over his shoulder to see where Christian van der Velde is. Van der Velde 2nd overall at the start of today, and quite possibly the next man to inherit the overall leader's jersey.
Now Rabobank are pushing their men forward as well. Gessing has sent the message out there. His number 71 has just gone through our picture, and so he is now deciding. He knows there will be somebody launching an attack from the front here. Don't think it'll be just yet. I think they'll wait till they enter the town of Crested Butte before they make a move. This beautiful little town tucked into the bottom of the Rocky Mountains, and then they'll go across the town and wind their way out of town up to the finish at Great Crested Butte.
Just sitting in 4th position there, Christian van der Velde. Tommy Danielson is the 4th rider in those black and white jerseys of Garmin Cervelo. Over to the right-hand side, the orange jerseys, that's Team Rabobank, the Dutch squad, with Robert Hessing thinking about the possibility of a victory for him. He's pretty good at uphill finishes. In fact, he won the uphill finish in the Tour of Oman in January of this year, and went on the next day to win the individual time trial. The individual time trial around Vale in a couple of days' time, Phil, could be extremely interesting, because it's pretty much a mountain time trial. There'll be big time gaps.
Even though it's only short, you're right. It's Sam Johnson here who's doing the tremendous work on the front for Team Exergy, and 2 of his teammates sat there right behind him. Garmin Cervelo, the riders in black, they're finely poised at the moment. They're so easy to pick out with those blue crash helmets that they wear. The yellow jersey in the center of the pack, obscured a little bit, but positioning himself well, Patrick Gretsch. He's not here to try and defend his lead, but if he's got a chance, he'll take it. He's here to look after TJ Van Garderen on the team.
Yeah, but you notice all the teams, all the different coloured jerseys, all coming together to form these little groups of riders. A bit difficult to keep an eye on HTC High Road, because 3 of those riders have got different coloured jerseys today. The blue jersey on the shoulders of TJ Van Garderen, the orange jersey on the shoulders of Danny Pate, and of course the yellow jersey on the shoulders of Patrick Gretsch.
Looking at the pattern of the echelons the riders are forming, it's not a totally headwind now. It's coming slightly from the left of the picture as we look at it, so it's head to cross just now. But what it does mean when you get wind in this direction, you have to judge your effort perfectly, because if you go too soon, the wind wins and the guys behind take the prize of the day. as they continue, everybody enjoying the race as we approach Crested Butte, and the sun has come out as glorious as it's been all day, so we're going to get to the finish in the dry weather. Still a mammoth amount of work being done at the front of the race here by the Team XG boys.
Well, the one thing they're doing, whether or not they get a result with their two Colombian climbers, Phil, is they're getting themselves some FaceTime on television. That's sometimes more important than actually winning the race for a small team, to get the name in front of the TV cameras for as long as possible, because that's at the end of the day what pays the bills and what pays the salaries.
But it just shows you, Paul, these teams, you know, with the small reputations in the world of cycling, this is a brand new team up against the boys with the biggest possible reputation in cycling. They're not afraid.
No, they're not afraid of reputations at all, and that's what a lot of the American riders said to me before the start of this race here, the USA Pro Cycling Challenge. It really is very strange when you race at altitude, because you never know how your body's going to respond.
Yeah, absolutely right. So then the three boys from Team XG looking over the shoulders, look a bit surprised that the whole field is still there. Now you know you're in Colorado, you see, but a horse will never beat a man on a bike, even if you can try. So as the riders now continue to close in, we're heading towards Crested Butte now, and still the Team XG boys are setting the pace, but there's no doubt now it's going to be showdown on Mount Crested Butte. The winner of the day could well be the next leader of the race. Oh, the girls have made it as well. Thank heavens they're ahead of the riders. We'll see in a moment. Yes, here we are now deep in the Rockies, heading to showdown at Crested Butte. The field there, they're forming a triangle at the moment. That's a new one, as they now start to shuffle the pack here and push their riders forward, placing them in where it matters. And here comes trouble from the EPM team for Colombia, moving up their men, with Beltan Suarez moving up as well. We're on the higher slopes now. We've just broken 9,000 feet as we start the climb up towards the finish, as the riders now have got a wide road here to play with, and just in the front there is the town. Well, you have the feeling, Paul, of a build-up of a bunch sprint, the way these riders are trying to jockey for position, yet shortly we're going to be climbing to the top.
Yep, but I think we'll see quite a sprint for that 3-second time bonus when we come into Crested Butte, but then it's a completely different kind of profile as we turn out of Crested Butte, and then all of a sudden you've got that 5-kilometer climb, and there is no respite at all. It's not a very steep climb, an average gradient of between 6 and 7%, but the fact is, and the question mark is, that we've been asking ourselves since the very start of today, Phil, what effect will this high altitude have on some of the European contenders?
Well, the Dutch team there, Skills Shimano, most of their players seem to have gone to the back of the race here to keep out of trouble. Meanwhile, at the front is still XG doing the work. But did you see that scurry of riders from the EPM team just push their men forward a moment ago into the right position? And that's the team I would worry about.
So, certainly alongside Gobernación de Antioquia, the other Colombian team, they will, I think, light the fireworks once we get to this climb, because Colombian riders, Phil, have absolutely no fear of climbs at all. In fact, they dream about them and they love them.
Yeah, they do. They're talented boys, that's for sure. If you wanted to win the Tour de France, the attitude of most, including Lance Armstrong in his day, was to destroy the Colombians on the flat roads, so they couldn't get rid of him too much on the mountain roads. I think that was Brad White, who's now slipped off the back. His job is done for the day, and he's going to come back again. Come on, Brad, nearly home now, just a few kilometers to go. Anyway, he'd be well inside. He's got, I'm not surprised as he slips off the back. Well, he's got still a few kilometers to go, about 7 miles to race, 12k or so. 8k to go to the finish right now. My computer's not working well in the heat today. 5 miles, that's all.
Number 81 there. You see the three blue jerseys there. That's United Healthcare cycling team, and the middle rider there was Rory Sutherland. Now, he accompanied some of the best climbers in the world in the recent Amgen Tour of California, and he'll be hoping to do the same thing here this afternoon.
So the peloton will never leave the mountains throughout the week of this race, this very first USA Pro Cycling Challenge. They'll always be staring down on them, except on the odd occasion when the riders will top out as high as they are at over 12,000 feet starting tomorrow. We're looking at Benjamin King here at the moment. It was pushing out on our computer 272 watts of power, and they're only pedaling at just over 20 miles an hour. It's about 32 miles an hour.
Well, basically, that's the kind of wattage these riders will put out on a flat road. Once we start to get to the climb, that wattage that is being put out by the riders will double and be up to around about 500 watts. And to put a sprinter's wattage into perspective, guys like Thor Hushovd in a sprint, in the final couple of 100 meters of a sprint, can develop at 1400 watts. So currently, it's fairly easy if you're sitting in the main pack on this flat road.
No rain in the clouds off to the left. Looks like it might be raining off in the backdrop there. The riders now heading towards the town of Crested Butte. All together, nobody in front. They've swept up everybody that matters. There's a lot of riders moving towards the back of the field now. It feels that their job may be done. They've been the domestics, keeping their team leaders at the sharp end. It's showdown time. We do have this Smashburger sprint coming up, and it carries very important time bonuses. At this stage of the race, whoever wins the sprint could be the next leader of the Tour.
I just noticed it was United Healthcare moving to the front. They may well be trying to get themselves a few seconds time bonus there for Rory Sutherland. I'd noticed that they were getting themselves organised and scuttling up the outside of the main field. Rory Sutherland, 3 seconds time bonus for him would be thank you very much, and into his back pocket.
Well, be careful. They've got the firepower in Robert Foster and United Healthcare after his ride yesterday. If he gets a 3-second bonus there for himself for United Healthcare and stays with them up the hill, that might be a bigger problem. But if he does, he could be the next man in yellow, and that would be a great result for United Healthcare.
It's all a question of mathematics and working it all out. You can see somebody starting the sprint over. They did very good organisation by United Healthcare, going around the corner in first place.
Well, as we start the move here up towards the line now, as you can hear the crowd here as we come into Crested Butte. They've waited a long time to see this, but they have been watching it live on television for most of the afternoon. Now the riders are in their town here as they line up for this sprint.
Well, it's an important sprint for somebody. 3 seconds, 2 and 1 for the first 3 riders to cross the line. This is what it looks like at the back end of the main field. All the guys have been doing lots of pacemaking. They're just sitting here holding on to the peloton for as long as possible, as they're now starting to pay for the efforts they've done of working for the rest of the team.
Well, there's no doubt United Healthcare, the boys in blue here, looking to take this out. Now watch out for, this is the Smashburger sprint, 3 seconds is the bonus, and they're going to get a bit of a surprise. That's Foster sitting there in third wheel here, and to see if he can pull it off. If he pulls this off and gets 3 seconds, then it's a question of hang on to the top, and he could have a yellow jersey. There's a sweeping right turn here as we line up now for the approach to the finish itself. But first of all, it is through the sprint point.
Well, there was the younger Juraj Sagan was up there in 4th place as well in this line, the brother of Peter Sagan. I wonder if he can sprint quite as well as his brother. He's the younger brother, and some people are saying he's even more talented.
Well, as they make the final sweep now, 3.7 miles to go to the finish, and it looks as though Foster may have got caught out. No, he hasn't. I think he's just gone through from the second wheel. As he comes up, it's going to be Sagan and Foster, and Sagan has got it on the line as Foster shakes his head.
Well, I don't know. I couldn't see exactly where the line was.
I think
there.
The motorbike got first.
Oh, definitely. The motorbike did a good job there, going across the line in 3rd place. Now, this is a moment when the hostilities are starting to unfold. As we see, they're trying to take advantage. And look at this crowd. It's unbelievable.
Well, it is, and they're enjoying the spectacle of the arrival now of the US Pro Cycling Challenge, but it's not over. This was just the Smashburger sprint for bonuses. Now they're pushing on, and it looks as though the man that won that sprint, no, it's not. This could be Foster himself. No, it is Sagan who's going now as he tries to push on for the win.
Well, you see the main field now, Phil. They're not letting anything go at all. They're stretched out into the longest line we've seen. There's a little move there, and it looks like it's Garmin Cervelo pretty much in control, and Rabobank in the orange jersey and the blue shorts. 4th position there for Robert Hessing, but still a lot of riders from Garmin Cervelo moving up there also. I noticed Ivan Basso very much present at the front end of the pack.
Well, now look at the pace of lift up here now, and now we'll see if the Europeans are suffering from altitude sickness, because this is steadily uphill. On our computer, we're hitting 9,000 feet. We'll go through that to almost 9,400 as we race up towards the line. These are the pacemakers looking for their team leaders now, and in the case of the man on the front, they're looking to make sure Christian van der Velde and Tommy Daniels will stay in contention.
4 kilometers now to go to the finish. Garmin Cervelo is certainly trying to set something up. There's a lot of riders filling that top 10 to 12 places there from Leopard Trek as well, as we're just going over the bridge now. And as they go around this left-hand bend, they're picking up a slight headwind, but they will also very shortly start to pick up an increasing gradient.
This is the start of that gradient, Paul. Now as they sweep left here, we're back out in the country. Great Crested Butte is in front. Crested Butte is below the riders now. Just look at the speed they've picked up for this now. This is going to be a very, very tough ride now for those who've got to win and those who must not lose time on the sprint finish. And look at this, the Maillot Jaune is trying to get in on it.
Well, that's Ryder Hagedal, the first rider there from Garmin-Cervelo. He really is dishing out a certain amount of pain here this afternoon. Looking over his shoulder, he's looking to see whether Tommy Danielson is there, and he is. It's now Tommy Danielson moving himself up into second position.
Danielson. Hessink, though, is the rider who wants this. He's put his teammate on the front, but he can't even get onto the wheel of his teammate just at the moment as they try to hang on together. Look at the movement behind as the riders try to get involved here. At the rear of the peloton, riders are now saying enough is enough today. Hessink is the man of the day, but there's a challenge coming as well from Radio Shack's Ivan Rovny has now gone to the front.
Well, he's trying to keep the pace nice and high and set something up for his teammate Levi Leipheimer. What a great job that's being done here by the yellow jersey. Patrick Grebsen maybe not going to get rid of him this afternoon. Up into fifth position there is first of all Andy Schleck, followed by his brother Frank Schleck. These boys are not going to give up the ghost too quickly here on this final climb. The blue jersey there is TJ Van Garderen, and the big boys are now coming to the front to play.
Well, Rabobank still want this for the rider in third position. Now, Rovny has done damage, that's for sure, as he's now looked over his shoulder. The peloton has split now. We're left with only a fraction of the peloton at the front. TJ Van Garderen is in an incredibly good place. Meanwhile, a flashback to the Tour de France. This man gets around, doesn't he, Paul? As it's still Rabobank coming up round him at the moment. Hessink really is showing, but look at the might of what the leader's yellow jersey does. Gretsch is in third place.
Yeah, but just behind them, Andy Schleck, Frank Schleck, TJ Van Garderen, Levi Leipheimer is right in there as well. You can just see a little bit further back in the blue, the lime green helmet, Ivan Basso. This is the point where the race is being ripped to pieces by the wind. The wind is coming from the right-hand side, and that's why these riders are riding in this very long diagonal line.
And the speed that the European professionals have come here as we get an attack straight away has shut out the Colombian riders.
This is Andy Schleck on the move. He's obviously not too concerned here this afternoon, Phil, about this little bit of altitude, and he's put the real cat amongst the pigeons now. They're all trying to scramble to get onto his back wheel.
Well, it's not a good time for our pictures to freeze, and I hope it lets it go very shortly, but it gives a chance to look at the gear this man is riding on the climb. He's on his biggest gear on the front chain wheel, trying to destroy them, and the pictures, there's the finishing line as we have to cut away. The lead motorbikes are coming in now. Has Andy Schleck managed to crack them at that moment? Because Schleck has made a very, very cheeky move there, but it just shows you, Paul, he's got the confidence. He's done the training at altitude.
Yeah, well, watch out, because when you see one Schleck go out on the attack, you can be almost certain that if they get caught, another Schleck will go out on the counter move. Three riders now scrambling off the front end, and it's Danny Pate in the orange jersey of HTC High Road who's been forced to do the pacemaking for his man, TJ Van Garderen.
And it's Bissell who have also put a man up here now, and I think it might be Chris Baldwin who's got himself into the action on the left of our pictures. Schleck looks over his shoulder. Danny Pate is here in third wheel, inspired by the fact it's not Danny Pate, this is one of the EPM riders who's got himself across. One of the small riders, as he gets into the action, they've got a little bit of a gap. This is how the attack came from Andy Schleck. He looked around, he saw Frank on his back wheel, and he dug deep, and there's no reaction from Hessink. He just took one look and thought, I can't go with that move.
It's pretty tough to attack from the front row like that, Phil, as you can start to see they're about to get pulled back in. That is still Danny Pate. He's swung off now. He's got said to TJ Van Garderen, okay, mate, it's all up to you now. This is a move from EPMA.
EPMA have started the move. Frank has come across to join Bro Andy, so Cadell Evans is not far away. Cadell Evans is there as well. Leipheimer is trying to move up on the wheel of his Radio Shack teammate. These big boys are getting it together now, and Cadell Evans has got third wheel. Now Leipheimer's going to sense his opportunity. opportunity here, but Frank is in fourth.
Frank Schleck moving up into fourth place. TJ Van Garderen in the blue jersey in fifth place now, just waiting for the time to try and make a move. Andy Schleck has slipped right the way to the back. I'm sure he was trying to at 1 kilometre to go.
Under the maxis, 1 kilometre to go banner now. That is just 1,000 metres from the line. The big boys are here. Evans, Frank, Andy Schleck, Levi Leipheimer, TJ Van Garderen off to the right in our blue jersey. The pacemaking still being done by Ivan Rovny.
Watch this though, the black jersey there in about 5th or 6th position is Sergei Hanayo, and he's waiting. He's got his teammate Oscar Sevilla right on his wheel. They're waiting to see whether or not they can make the move here this afternoon.
Yes, Van Garderen is there, but he better look over his shoulder. Sergio Hanayo is right there, and that man is a very, very fast uphill sprinter. And still the work being done by Rovny here to try and deliver Leipheimer to the finishing line is sensational. They have pulled away a select group of about 12 riders at the moment. Cadel Evans, the Tour de France champion, is there as Frank Schleck makes his move for the line. A very good reaction from Levi Leipheimer. Cadel Evans, TJ Van Garderen.
Cadel Evans up there into 3rd position, but watch out for these two Colombians, Phil, because they're in 5th and 6th position. Sergio Hanayo and Oscar Sevilla, they're waiting. Levi Leipheimer now makes the acceleration, and jumping onto his wheel is Cadel Evans. Watch out for Oscar Sevilla though, because he's up into 3rd, but Leipheimer's got the gap.
Look at the gap, and every second counts here. He was 8 down after yesterday. Is he racing to the gold medal today? Because there's a 10-second win bonus. Levi Leipheimer has ripped the field apart here. He's left them for dead. It was like commentating on the finish of a stage of the Tour de France with those names. And Levi Leipheimer inside of a 10-second time bonus and the win. Being chased all the way to the line here by Sergio Hanayo, the Colombian rider, but Leipheimer is after him. Sevilla is there too, and Hanayo is in 2nd place. Sevilla is in 3rd. Leipheimer, has he misjudged this? His mouth is wide open. He took one look over his shoulder. Where is this finishing line? The 10-second time bonus could be yellow tonight. Levi Leipheimer has cracked the big time. He wins the stage. Hanayo, I think, will hang on there for 2nd place, and Oscar Sevilla might have got 3rd. I'm not sure about that.
Bit of chaos as they came up to the line. They were all gasping for breath. There's no doubt about the winner of the stage, though. Levi Leipheimer, a well set up move there by his teammate, because his teammate Ivan Rovny launched him. There you can see Tommy Danielson coming in. These riders now know this is a race. They've got a race on their hands, and Levi Leipheimer is the first man to bang on the table.
And the next man to wear the Quiznos a yellow jersey, because I'm pretty sure that 10-second bonus will have stitched it up for him tonight. We'll have to check it on the overall later. And here comes the yellow jersey now, when he looked as though he was going to defend. The acceleration by the stars of the Tour de France was incredible. And so now Patrick Gretsch is still fighting for the seconds, but there's no doubt he's lost his jersey today. 55 seconds just on the minute conceded. So all his gains in the prologue time trial yesterday have been wiped out, and Leipheimer, I think, will be the next in yellow.
He was down by 8 seconds on the yellow jersey at the start of the day. He was down by 6 seconds on Christian Van der Velde. That 10-second time bonus is going to make him the new yellow jersey at the end of today's stage. But what an incredible acceleration. All set up really, Phil, pretty much by the Schleck brothers, but all of a sudden they could do nothing when Levi really came out to pounce.
But you have to hand it to the Schleck brothers. They really ride a bike race to win, and they started the move. Frank tried to finish it off. For the moment, with 800 meters to go, everybody in our camera lens had ridden the Tour de France. It was incredible.
No, it certainly was. Levi Leipheimer going back down now to the presentation area. It's like Jens Voigt over on the left-hand side, taking a quick check on what his heart rate is like. That must have pushed it up nice and high as he came up towards the finishing line.
These boys have finished totally exhausted here. This is not the top of Alpe d'Huez at 5,000 feet. This is the top of the great Crested Butte climb, sitting at 9,000 plus feet.
A little tap on the hand there to his teammates as he goes back down towards the presentation area. Levi Leipheimer, I think, pretty impressed with that acceleration, I have to say, Phil. He has managed to put all the bad luck of the Tour de France a long way behind him now, and that was a vicious acceleration in the last 500 meters.
Well, you know, Team Radio Shack have had a brilliant season, overshadowed because everybody watches the Tour de France, and we saw every one of their 4 potential leaders and possible winners of the Tour destroyed by crashes and bad luck. Leipheimer was one of those, but right now he's off in search of a yellow jersey. We'll see him get that very shortly.
Well, that was an impressive attack, and that was really not such a vicious climb. There's a lot more racing yet to come in this event, and at least Levi Leipheimer has put the cards on the table and said, look, I've come here to win the USA Pro Cycling Challenge. I've got the form. I've been at altitude for a good 10 days now, with a victory at the recent Tour of Utah to boot. There's a chance here just to look at that acceleration. Cadel Evans saw the move coming and felt, right now I've got to get with this, but he just couldn't quite lift the horsepower that little bit more.
That was an incredible acceleration by Leipheimer, a man committed for sure. He comes from Santa Rosa, California, but he's not really a born native of California. He comes up from the mountain region on the west coast of the United States. And the Leipheimer, look at that face. I thought for a moment it was shades of yesterday, Paul, when he was going to fade inside of the line and lose seconds, and the boys were going to catch him, but he found it this time.
I think he was judging his effort there. He kept looking back, kept looking under his shoulder there, just to see whether or not he could see the challenge coming from somebody behind, to see whether or not he could see the shadow of the man coming up in second place behind him, Hanayo. And I think he realized just exactly how much effort he had to dose. He knew he wanted to win. He knew he wanted the 10-second time bonus, and that was enough. Thank you very much.
But also take note of Sergio Henao, because there's a rider for the future. Next year he'll be riding on the Team Sky. Little interview going on here with the erstwhile yellow jersey. He gave it his all, and he did say he didn't expect to lead tonight. Yesterday was his target. He was successful there. This man was successful today in the mountain. It's incredible how Levi Leipheimer rises to the occasion when he races on his own territory, because he's virtually unbeatable here. So as we look out across now the lovely enclave here, tucked deep in the Rocky Mountains of Crested Butte and Great Crested Butte, let's have a look now at the United Healthcare results. Leipheimer wins by 4 seconds over Sergio Henao. Frank Schleck came up for third there in the end. Cadel Evans was fourth. Christian van der Velde crossed the line in fifth. So another good day out for Christian van der Velde with that fifth place. I'm not sure if we have any more. We do. TJ Van Garderen lost 7 seconds to Leipheimer, 17 when you take on the 10-second win bonus. Javier Acevedo 10 seconds back there in 7th place. They're the immediate results coming off the computer. I don't know whether the computer will work fast enough to give us our overall, but there's no doubt in my mind now that Levi Leipheimer pulls on the Quiznos yellow jersey later on this afternoon. As we look across the most stunning landscape here, over them there hills sits Aspen. That's the destination tomorrow. It's a long way though for the riders, because they'll climb over the Cottonwood Pass and Independence Pass. Okay, well, we'll give everybody a chance to sort everything out. We'll take a break. When we come back, we'll bring you all the podiums and the interviews we can. We'll see you back here in the mountains in just a moment. Everything saved, the best till the last today. An incredible stage finish as we wander about Crested Butte now with these beautiful aerial images coming to you courtesy of Colorado.com. Well, the Butte has seen many things in its life over the thousands of years it's been there, but I bet it hasn't seen a sprint like Levi Leipheimer produced as he ripped away from the field in sight of the finish and hung on right to the line. Okay, so let's have a look then at our Road ID Ride of the Day. Now, yesterday you voted this man had done the Road ID Ride of the Day yesterday. Well, today there's no doubt we agree with you. Levi Leipheimer launched the assault here. Frank Schleck saw it, couldn't do anything about it. Cadel Evans tried to chase him down, as did Henao. But by the top of the climb, he was on his own. And to vote on who you think should be today's Ride of the Day recipient and win a shopping spree, head on over to roadid.com/ride. We'll announce the fan pick at the top of tomorrow's show. That'll be interesting, won't it? United Healthcare's stage standings here. Leipheimer gets the win in just on 4.5 hours today. Hey now, we're really worried about them. At least the riders in the race are. He got second. Frank Schleck third. Cadel Evans well in fourth. Christian van der Velde, another good ride for him. 2 days of good riding in fifth. TJ Van Garderen held on to 6, looking further down. Guessing in the end got 8th. Tommy Danielson completed the top 10. And I now hear that Bob Rowe has nailed our race winner today. Let's go to him with Levi Leipheimer.
Levi, you mentioned this morning that you didn't think it was a day that there might be any separation, but you put in a scintillating attack in the last kilometer. What was the thinking behind that move?
There wasn't much thinking. My teammate, Ivan Rovny, he did a great job. He pulled for like a kilometer really hard, and Frank Schleck gave a little attack, and I followed him. I looked under my arm, and I saw no one on my wheel, so I knew it was a little long ways to go, but I went for it anyway, and it worked out. I've never won a stage like that, like an explosive effort. So in my old age, I'm learning some new tricks.
The altitude was favorable to you, so the time up way above sea level has paid off, obviously, on today's stage.
Yeah, well, you know, I grew up in Butte, Montana. It's a mile high, and I've spent the last 3 weeks at altitude in Utah, Park City, and I just feel like I'm acclimated and ready to race hard here in Colorado.
Tomorrow is a very difficult stage over a couple of big mountain passes. What are you thinking about tomorrow?
Tomorrow will be very difficult. I expect the Colombians to be aggressive. I expect a much more aggressive stage than today. I think today everybody was sussing it out, a little bit afraid of the altitude and just not knowing what's going to happen. You know, it takes a day for people to figure out what to do, and I think tomorrow they'll have it figured out and they'll come out guns a-blazing.
Long descent to the finish line, and after the prologue, you had a pretty handy advantage over maybe the most dangerous riders in the field, the Colombians. You must be pretty confident going into tomorrow's stage.
Well, I know. I mean, it can all change in one day. We're going to take it day by day, but I won a stage here, and you know, if that's all I get out of this race, it's a success. But obviously, I want to win the overall. That's no secret. But you know, day by day.
All right, Levi, congratulations.
Thank you.
That's interesting, isn't it? You know, he's won 62 races in his career, and he's saying he's never won one like that, which was to use sheer power to rip away from the field. So well done, Levi Leipheimer. You've got to look for every which way once you want to win a bike race at this level of cycling. I thought he'd gone a bit early, but I see why now, because Frank Schleck had made the move and opened up a small gap, and it was now or never for him, and he hung on, which is exactly what he had hoped to do. Well, there's the lovely hamlets as we look down here on Great Crested Butte, and mountain bike trails abound all over those mountains. We're just waiting now for the prize presentations to begin. So Paul Leipheimer just saying there, never in his career has he won a race like that with that explosive finish.
Well, no, I was just thinking, Phil, that was an extremely well-timed sprint by him, and I haven't seen him accelerate quite like that, but he was admirably set up by his teammate, the Russian rider Ivan Rovny, and he probably just felt that that was the right time to go and the right time to make the move, and he put the hammer down.
Yep. Well, Schleck opened the gap. That was Frank Schleck, by the way, and Levi followed him and took the advantage of it. There's the big crowd now. They're just down from the finishing line, waiting for the prize presentation. So, well, just while we're waiting here, I hear Bob Roll has now found who's he talking to. I think he's talking to Frank Schleck. Let's see with Bob Roll, with Frank.
Frank Schleck, you had some great attacks. Considering the time you've been at altitude, you must have had some pretty good legs on today's stage.
Yeah, I'm very surprised. My first experience, my first touch with this altitude. The only time I've been so high, I guess that was in a plane. I'm very surprised about my third place. I mean, Andy and myself, we played the cards pretty good towards the end, and I had the most punch. So I played in the end. I mean, okay, Levi, he was stronger. He's been racing in Utah. He's been racing in altitude. So being the first non-altitude rider or coming from sea level, I'm pretty proud of it.
A couple of more huge mountains on tomorrow's stage. You're looking forward to perhaps, if you feel as good, putting in some more attacks?
I don't know. I'm happy that today, yeah. I mean, since I had a good experience today, why not tomorrow? We'll see what happens. I think that first climb is it's very on a dirty road, and it's going to be another interesting race tomorrow, for sure.
Okay, Frank, good luck and congratulations from today.
Thanks.
Oh, what a character Frank is there. Let's have a look then at the United Healthcare overall classification. Now, Leipheimer is the next leader of the race, 11 seconds ahead of Christian van der Velde, who stays in second. TJ Van Garderen is now up into third. Cadel Evans appears in fourth. Robert Gessing also up into fifth place, 30 seconds covering them all. Brent Buchwalter slips down to sixth place here. Sutherland still there in seventh. Danielson in ninth place at the moment. Jeff Lauder having a great race on BMC as well. He completes the top 10. Look at that massive crowd down there. Now back to Bob Roll quickly, because he's just picked up TJ Van Garderen.
TJ, it looked like a very hard finish with a lot of separation. Were you a little bit surprised at how difficult the end of the stage was?
Yeah, I was a bit surprised at how many gaps there were. I was thinking it was going to be, you know, something like Mur de Bretagne, where you see the GC guys ahead and, you know, maybe a little bit of gap, but I was surprised at how big the gaps were.
And how good were your legs up at 9,500 feet almost on today's stage?
They weren't incredible. I mean, I hung in there pretty tough, so I think I'm still holding on to a good GC spot. But I mean, normally those kind of finishes are really good for me, but I was suffering.
A couple of very long climbs again tomorrow. What are you looking forward to on tomorrow's stage?
I'm looking forward to going into Aspen. It's going to be a fun stage. Yeah, I did that. I rode Independence Pass with George a few days ago, and we were like 3 hours into the ride, and we were eating a ton and just both bonked. And so I think when you get up that high, you just lose calories so quick. So
best of luck, TJ. Good luck tomorrow.
Thank you.
Yes, and tomorrow they top out at Independence Pass, just 20 miles from the finishing line in Aspen, so that will be a significant climb tomorrow. So now we're waiting on stage for the arrival of the new leader of the Quiznos, new leader of the USA Pro Cycling Challenge. It will be the Quiznos yellow jersey. There he is. Levi Leipheimer salutes the crowd, particularly pleased because of the way he won the race today with an explosive finish that beat them all.
Well, it was an impressive explosive finish. I think he needed to get that jump fill on Sergio Hanaya, who was clawing his way back over the last few meters, helped by his teammate Oscar Sevilla, who faded in the last 50 meters, but still managed to finish inside of the top 10.
Yes, all smiles here. The yellow jersey, the stage win. He said already behind stage that, you know, he can't say how the rest of the race is going to unfold, but if he'd stopped right now, he'd be happy with what he's done this week here in the Pro Cycling Challenge. Taking a look down at the yellow jersey. He's no stranger to wearing yellow jerseys, especially here in the United States, having just come off the victory in the Tour of Utah.
Well,
so as we look here at the Quiznos yellow jersey presented now to Levi Leipheimer, that about wraps up our coverage for today. And let's have a look at tomorrow. This is the route they face. Radio Shack promoting it for us. It's a toughie, believe me, and it's quite a long way, this one, for the riders with two huge climbs. Frank Schleck said he has never been up only in an airplane to 9,000 feet. Well, tomorrow he's going to top out on that. We go down to Gunnison, where we start our journey, and it's steadily uphill through the 9,000 foot mark. Frank Schleck topping out at 12,000 foot before we go down Cottonwood Pass, descending rapidly to the valley, then it's all uphill again. Now we're on the giant of them all, the Independence Pass, slightly lower than Cottonwood, but critically placed just about 20 miles from the finishing line in Aspen. This will be a very, very tough stage indeed. And don't forget, if you missed any of today's stage, watch it tonight at 11 p.m. Eastern. The US Pro Cycling Challenge continues tomorrow here on Versus at 3:30 with a rematch in the Rockies. The USA Pro Cycling Challenge Epic Mini Series immediately followed by Live 2 Stage Live. So don't forget, for a full scheduled daily highlights, log on to NBCSports.com. As the riders now are heading even deeper into the mountains. USAProCyclingChallenge.com is where you go as well for all information on this event. You can get onto the tracker system there as well and enjoy accurate coverage. Clothing provided by Pearl Izumi as the riders now make their way. As we now go on to our way, well done to Levi Leipheimer today. He read it exactly right, and it's given him the next leader's yellow jersey in this event. From all of us at Versus, from higher in the mountains at Great Crested Butte, we'll see you all tomorrow in Aspen. And until then, goodbye from everybody on the team. We'll see you tomorrow.